That's how it's gonna be, a little test tube.
It's most likely to be a highly infectious virus.
Guy steps out of Times Square station, smashes it on the sidewalk.
Welcome to the Zero Indent Review, a show dedicated to handcrafted studies of genre fiction. I'm author DC McNeil, and this week Patrick is still on leave with his feet up on a beach somewhere. So instead, I am joined by the sympathetic, militant community member, willing to bend the rules to help our heroes. It's Darth.
Hello there.
And of course, Danielle from Level Story, a slightly baffled Fedra member who just watched her entire squad be killed by her boss.
You got me. Hi, hello.
And of course, Alex, a military leader who just sentenced his son to death in order to save the WLF in the hospital and seems to feel a type of way about it.
Hello? Question mark? I did that?
Yeah, smoking a cigarette, thinking about your son's death. It's tragic. Welcome back to our continued study of the post-apocalypse genre, brought to you by the Zero Indent Patreon subscribers who help make the shows and the articles that shape Zero Indent. I want to, first off, once again, explain why I've been quite a poor producer. Today we're talking about episodes 3 to 5. Much like last episode where I incorrectly labeled the meeting invite, this episode I misled you last episode with what we were covering. So we are just doing 3 to 5, and then next time we'll be doing 6 to 7 to wrap up the show. We're kind of in the weeds of the television program here, with what ends up being, to me, quite a pacey season of TV, right? There's a lot of content here that they move through quite quickly in a way that I am beginning to become increasingly concerned about with where they're planning on ending this. I'm interested, round the horn. What's our vibe? Still enjoying it. Darth, let's go to you first. How did these 3 episodes find you?
I still very much was vibing with it. I very much liked it, even though this even more leaned into the things that I was having issues with, namely the zombies and the few quote-unquote evolutions that we were seeing that were brought up again, but again, not explored whatsoever. So it was kind of what we had talked about in the Sherlock thing, where they just keep making the bad guys like stronger and stronger to make things more interesting, but then they don't really, like, there's no purpose for it. And so that kept kind of pulling me out of the show when they would have different things, and I'm like, okay, but why? Either like the drama was like amazing, like stick to the drama, stick to the characters, or do zombies. And they just kind of tried to toe the line between both of them. So I did have that issue, while also like I love the guitar playing scene, and I loved so much of it. Beautiful cinematography too. I adored all of the destruction city scenes that we get to see.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I, for once, and everybody hold on to something, I actually agree with Darth. I think that I know.
Is that the first time?
I think I think that some of the stuff they do with the infection here made me go, huh? Like in a way that, and it's not like a game thing where I'm like, oh, the game did it differently, but genuinely in a way where I'm like, why do this here and now? And I know the answer for some of that is there's a boss in the video game later on. Like, I understand, like, structurally why some of that's here, but there's an undercut maneuver they do with the way that the virus is physically spread in the world during the scene in the hospital that I'm sure we'll get to, that genuinely I kind of sat back in my chair afterwards and, like, I haven't stopped thinking about that scene, being like, why now? So yeah, I completely agree. I think there was a lot that pulled me out of it, and there was some decision-making that also pulled me out of it in a way that feels CinemaSins coded, but also, much like a lot of the apocalypse fiction we talked about so far, your disbelief can only be suspended so far with decision-making that would put a character in danger if it really feels like emotionally resonant, right? It's like for a character to do something that puts them in a position where they're obviously, doing something that they could get killed or they could get zombified or whatever. It has to feel like that would be emotionally true. And there's a moment later on that I went, okay. So I'm curious, how we all end up feeling about that by the time this season wraps up. Because let me tell you, the show has no answers for you, Darth. If your question is why, the show is like, I don't know. Don't worry about it.
Just says deal with it.
Just deal with it, man. Listen, we're here. We did Chernobyl. You trusted that. Alex, what about you? What's your vibe on these three?
Yeah, similar sort of vague sentiment. Yeah, I don't want to say it took me out of it, but there were certain moments where I was like, okay, maybe we could have recut this. The guitar stuff was really good. I liked that. Surprisingly emotional, that one, actually, with the guitar and the way that song was what do you call it? Rendition? Whatever it was. Yeah, I love the whole Chekhov's guitar thing. And then I don't know how it plays out in the game, but and I think it was episode 5, was it? Where Ellie does the whole torturing bit?
Yeah.
Is that episode 5? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Danielle, I'm so interested in what you thought of these, because I think that this is like some just straight up and down good and fun TV, but like, man, choices have been made.
Yeah, I'll say for the most part, I enjoyed the episodes. But there are some strange choices being made. And I say that, like, I promise I'm going to do my best to not just say, oh, in the game they did this the whole time. But they're just strange choices being made. Like, these are like hour-long episodes for the most part. And if you asked me to say everything that happens, I feel like it's not much at the end of the day. And which is strange because from a game perspective, there is a lot. I apologize to cut off our conversation, but my cat's just knocked something large over, and I need to check what it is.
Yep, go
I
ahead.
did see a cat scurry off out of frame,
I
yeah.
heard like a thump.
Oh, did you? And ignore my Christmas pants that I'm wearing.
Okay. I'm not sure that we would have
did
noticed until you
think-
said that, but
The whole thing where,
Tis always
like,
the season.
was it where they're like in that supermarket or whatever, and it's like Dina grabs a whole bunch of something, and it's like she pretends like she's, well, it seems like at the time she's pretending like she's peeing, and then it's like later on she's just got like all these like somehow unexpired pregnancy tests. I thought was interesting.
we had this conversation as well, because Lucy turned to me and she said, surely the pregnancy test would have expired. And I went,
Yeah, right?
first of all, TV shows.
I just thought that was a funny little thing that I had in my notes of like,
Yeah.
just like this shit
Wasn't
expires. Like,
That was literally a line of dialogue, I think.
Is it?
Where
Yeah, Ellie's like,
yeah, I'm pretty
"Are we
sure
they
Ellie.
work." Yeah. But
Yeah,
It
and
is-
Dina was like, "That's why I got 6 of them."
but it is
Yeah,
just
but it's like-
chemicals. So like, would they actually expire? I don't know enough about.
they do have a half-life.
Okay.
What
I
are
mean,
we
it's-
talking about? The pregnancy test?
Oh, yeah, the somehow
Yeah.
unexpired pregnancy tests.
Yeah.
But then this
They've
show
been there
does
for
that,
how many years?
where it's like you'll go into a space and it's
Well,
like,
not
here is a
months even.
perfectly
I don't know.
preserved location.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, word? Like, occasionally the show does, like, when Ellie goes into the stage of the theater, and Darth, I thought of the theater in Station 11 by contrast, and I was like, oh, so one of you's thought through how this would actually work, and one of you hasn't. You know, one of you did the homework, and one of you went, I don't know, what if there was a fully preserved stage with it working guitars and electricity and stuff?
Well, there was a lot in that theater, because the room that they had Dina in, which may be a later episode, but she's like up on a couch upstairs somewhere, and that room I think looked pretty pristine.
Yeah, that was like
so
a
I
green room or a
think-
dressing room.
Yeah, so I think they were trying to show that the theater was mostly untouched because in the apocalypse, nobody still cares about theater.
Much like our modern moment, no one cares about the arts.
So sad.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Well, let's get underway then. We are first talking about episode 3, The Path, directed by Peter Hoare and Craig Mazin.
Whilst you're doing that, is the the spores a thing that were established in the game? Is that what you're talking about with the whole spread thing? Or?
Yeah, so in the game, there is no such root system. The virus doesn't move through roots, it only moves through spores.
Yeah, I had that written down as like a... Is this an adaptation thing, or is it like a... Yeah.
So it's always been spores, and this is the first time that the show has that in it. And I know why.
Can't wait to talk about that.
Yeah. I know exactly why, and I know what they're doing. And I'm very nervous for what that means. Because it implies that they're going to do the thing, and I'm like, but that's a video game level. You can't... That's not how TV works. We'll see.
Wait,
we'll see what they do.
Actually, can I say one more thing about the episodes and like just
Mhm.
splice it into my part with the cats?
It'll be
freak out?
seamless. No one will even know that the cats happened. I'll have to cut this out too.
Perfect.
We'll figure it out.
Perfect. Yeah. No, I was just gonna say that it's interesting the things that they decide to backpedal, like the spores, like this thing that in season 1 was kind of like, no, like the spores, they don't really exist, and now it's like, oh, actually they do. That's interesting. And I also find it interesting that like the things that they're really sticking to, like having it say Seattle day 1 in certain episodes, day 2, like why?
What?
It doesn't really feel like needed.
It's so weird to me, and I know why. I mean, you know why they're doing it, right? Like, because they're like, just wait, the stunt at the end will be worth it. It's like, I don't think it will. This is just weird. This is just
Yeah.
weird.
Ah.
I don't know.
Wasn't the spore thing introduced in the first season?
No.
Because we saw the clip of when like the woman who was running that complex, her son was the one that got trapped down there, and we saw that clip. That was in this season?
That was in this season.
Time flies. Okay.
Anywho,
I do have the doc open, David.
yeah, no, you're fine. In a seamless bit of editing that I'm sure will really
Oh, yes.
come off and everyone will be really impressed. They'll go, wow, David's such a good podcast editor. Danielle, could we please
You
hear
should
the
like just have
summary?
like a circle, like ellipsis, just yeah.
I don't know what I'm
All
going
right.
to do, but I'm
we
sure it'll be great.
Oh yeah.
Can we please hear the very
believe.
brief summary to episode 3? Because
Yes.
again, nothing happened.
Yeah, of course. So episode 3, directed by Peter Hauer and written by Craig Mazin. 3 months later, Ellie and Dina lobby to go after Abby, but the council refuses. They sneak off with Seth's assistance. Why can't I say that name?
Seth's
That's weird.
assistance.
Seth's
It's not a good
assistance.
sentence. I
Mean-
apologize.
No, you're fine. It's my own inability to pronounce the name. Meanwhile, a cluster of refugees in robes with scars on their faces walk through Washington forestry. The refugees are slaughtered, and not just the men, but the women and children. They're like animals, and they were slaughtered like animals. Ellie and Dina come up...
I'm not laughing
It's
at the
okay.
children being slaughtered. Just to make that clear.
You're welcome, Duff.
Like, stop. Ellie and Dina come upon the bodies, and Dina is conspicuously sick.
I have to be honest with you. The moment I thought of that joke, I was so happy. I was so smug. I was like, this is the cleverest thing I've ever done in my entire life.
I don't know if I...
Yeah, Duff, you might have to explain it, because we don't necessarily
Star Wars
have-
reference in Attack of the Clones when Anakin is admitting to Padme that he just murdered all of the Sand people, and it's like, not just the men, but the women and children too.
You're like
And she's
animals.
like, it's okay.
Danny,
I don't care.
like animals. She's like, babe, I still love you.
She's like,
You're
"There's-
hot. It's fine.
Yeah.
You're still Hayden Christensen, babe.
No red flags. It's
No
not
red
a red
flags.
flag at all.
All green flags, babe.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Guys, spoilers. What the heck?
Sorry, shit.
Spoilers for a 20-year-old film.
Oh, fuck. Oh, we finally done it. We finally spoiled Star Wars. Damn. Anyway, I had fun with that one. Look, this is a weird episode because it's like, and to Danielle's point, I don't want to be there like, what's the game? But it is worth noting here that most of this is just completely new. I think there's like one conversation that is from the game, sort of, which is Ellie and Dina sort of having the initial conversation to be like, hey, like we want to go, and then basically being told no. Everything else is just new. I think this is like a pretty good episode of TV, all things considered, and like I think, like a lot of the changes the show makes, when it's adding net new material, I tend to like it. I think it's like constructive and additive. Yeah, I'm curious what you guys make of. I guess this is like a setup episode, really. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's sort of going, here's a bunch of stuff that's going to happen, and here's all the motivations and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I will say real quick that I hated this episode upon first watching it. And so I was nervous to watch it again, and I thought it was actually pretty good for the most part. I enjoyed watching it. I like the little bits of character development that we get. I really like the scene with the therapist Gail, is that her name?
Mm-hmm.
And Tommy watching the baseball game.
Yeah.
I thought it was a good episode.
The scene where
The therapist continues to be a show stealer, I think.
absolute show stealer. When Ellie, when she comes in and she's interviewing Ellie, and Ellie pretending to be the healthiest person on the planet it's so funny. Like, it gets me every time. Like, and I love that Gail's like, for fuck's sake, like this fucking kid. Like, and they just both, like, I think it's really good. And then there's a moment where Dina and Ellie are in the council meeting and someone's talking about like the crop yields of like potatoes or whatever. And it cuts to just their faces and laugh out loud moment in the apartment. Like, such a good moment of just like brilliant act. Like, you know, the teenager look of like, oh my God, how is this still happening? So good. Like, I think that Ellie and Dina for me are just standouts in this episode.
Yes.
It's good buddy cop energy, I feel.
Yeah, and it's funny because I was just going to say the more and more I watched at least these 3 episodes, the more and more I got kind of sick of that buddy cop energy. But in this episode, loved it. It was awesome.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because it does feel like there's going to be a half-life on how much they can sell. You know how like in like a ongoing sitcom, like saying like Community or something, you get to a point where you are kind of sick of the like will they won't they chemistry of like Jeff and Britta, for example, and then the show does something really fun with it where it then plays with that, and the other characters are fucking sick of it as well. And then there's multiple times where they try and get together, and everyone's like, this is not going to work. Why are you guys doing this? I think that the show is walking up to that line of it getting kind of irritating by the end of episode 4, but then I think they're able to sell the emotional resolution of this relationship. Or they try to, and we'll get there, and I'm curious how we all think they sink that shot, because conceptually it works for me. The first time I watched it, I was like, wow. And then I was rewatching it and I went, this isn't great. Like, and there's like a CinemaSins thing I'm sure Darth will appreciate I have with that as well. But yeah, it's kind of a nothing episode that you can feel the push and pull of how do we make this feel like they've really actually tried. And it's that thing that Rye always talks about with like characters needing to fail forward, right? Where it's like they try one way, it doesn't work. Ellie does that really hollow speech in the council where she's like, you know, we got to do it for us, da 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 da. And it's like, she doesn't believe it. No one believes that she believes it. But everyone, you know, the council votes, and they get voted down. And so their plan is to sneak out. And then this is where we get the kind of, the way I often describe Neil Druckmann's politics is like slightly hollow and a bit like insufficient, because this is where we get the like, but the homophobe is a good guy as well. And it's like, oh, are you trying to sell the fact, like, are you telling me that there's good people on both sides? Or are you saying that now Ellie and Dina are doing the wrong thing and that's why the bad guy is aligning with them? And the show just doesn't have like a value judgment on that, right? They don't.
I want to say that I think that there's a good argument for him having a change of heart and realizing that like he doesn't want to be that bigoted person, And I say that specifically because he shakes Ellie's hand when they part, when he gives her the horse and the gun and everything and they part. Um, and that willingness to like physically touch someone where you like probably vehemently internally disagree with their life choices, that's a really hard thing to do. And so him doing that makes me think that this was a legitimate him trying to have a change of heart and not the show trying to do, the stuff that you had mentioned.
I think it's a fair reading. I'm just not sure that by the time that we get to the, I don't know. I feel like with characters like this, there's a tendency for them to be cartoonishly one note. So I don't mind that he has this extra dimension to him. I'm just perpetually weary of shows or of any story being like, yeah, he's a homophobe, but actually he's capable. Like, it's like the Stephen King thing of like, well, serial killers help old ladies across the road too, and it's like, well, that's true, but it doesn't move with any particular direction. It doesn't feel. Yeah, I don't know. I think the fact that like,
If I can add, I think I do agree with Darth, and I also think at the same time it does. I see what they're doing. It just feels a little hollow because they're not giving the characters the time to grow. We don't see what happens. We have no idea what. We can maybe guess what his motivations are, but we don't see it. And so on one side of the spectrum, it is a character who maybe has changed his ways and is trying to show that he's changed, especially with shaking Ellie's hand. But I think there is still a reading of like, well, of course you made the homophobe like that character. Like they could have made it any character, but I guess it's more symbolic having him be the one. I don't know. It's kind of messy.
Yeah,
in some ways.
The other interesting thing is we already had the like reconciliation with was it the sandwich or whatever in the previous episode where they have that awkward like apology, not apology type thing, and it's like, okay, that felt like that was that character kind of done, and then he just like comes back and is like, but now I'm super duper nice, and it's like, okay, I don't think your views would change in a matter of days.
It felt like that scene was like the mom saying, you guys got to make up.
Yeah, and then neither of them want to, and they're like, fine.
Yeah. That's true. Felt like more, like it felt like that sandwich scene was him being like, oh, whatever, like we'll make up, even though he's probably putting more of an effort in than Ellie was, but understandable that Ellie didn't want to really put in an effort. But maybe like as time has gone on, this is his way of making up for it. But again, yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's just kind of half-baked.
And this is reading a lot into it that I think it could make sense. I've been trying to find this dude's name, and I have not succeeded. If anyone else is more capable. Seth, okay? So given his personality, I could see him having like a bromance with Joel. Like I could see the two of them like really getting along. Because they both have this extremely gruff, like they're not even going to talk to each other, but they spend the entire day together and they loved it, that kind of demeanor. So the fact that, yeah, so like the fact that like Seth insulted Joel's daughter and Joel attacked him, and now Seth knows like this dude that I like, this dude I respect, I hurt him. And I got to make it up to his daughter. That's the only way for me to make this right because my friend died, right? So I could see that reading also, but they didn't put any of that in there.
No, there's none of that development to say that that's what it is. Yeah.
I would have liked if they had put that in there, showing Joel, because we don't get to see Joel doing hobbies a lot. I feel like a lot of the time in this show has been spent on things that's like, you couldn't have put maybe a scene in? Like, I think that would have actually been kind of nice, a scene between the two of them doing what you just described. Or
it's funny, it's like all of Joel's like could-be hobbies are always like twisted to be like he's doing something for the town, or it's never
True.
like,
For Ellie.
or he's like fixing the guitar strings for Ellie. It's never like doing it
Yeah.
for his own personal.
But that to me is also like that's a quality of the post-apocalypse that I think I actually really not enjoy, but that I appreciate that they stick to with a character like Joel. Darth was talking about it last time of like, he's like, well, if I were in this situation, or maybe it was Station 11, I don't remember, but like, you know, you're like, well, if I were in these situations, I would be like the survivalist person. I'd be on security. I'd be the one that's like hyper fixated. And there is a way that post-apocalypse fiction will instrumentalize characters in service of like preserving, you know, the material reality around them. And that's why the post-apocalypse specifically is such an interesting genre, because it's a space where typically you've got people that remember pre-apocalypse and then people that don't. And the people that remember pre-apocalypse tend to be instrumentalized completely in the service of survival, right? And so to me, it makes complete sense that everything Joel does in some way or another is completely bent to the wheel of survival and of Jackson and of the people around him, with the one exception of he seems like he when Ellie goes into his bedroom and you get that devastating scene of like she smells his jacket and it's just like, fuck, man, like Christ. He has sort of these wooden creatures he's been whittling. So, you know, he has a hobby, but it's this private thing. It's in his workshop. You know, there's something about that characterization of Joel that I think coheres really nicely with the first season and the way that we see him, which is like, he was kind of like this before the end of the world as well. Like, he was like a private guy. He had the McMansion. He had like the nice study with all the kitted out gear, and he had like the nice grill. But fundamentally, you know, he lives on a big block of land in Texas that's away from other people for a reason, right? The only person he's really friendly with is his brother, by necessity, because it's his brother. You know, there's I get it. I get why it's not here, but also I think the Seth stuff that we're talking about is a necessary it's a necessary throughput of adding so much extra text and maybe not having the time or not quite being sure what the plan is with that extra text, but knowing you have to put it in, right? It's like, well, we can't do a 20-minute episode. Like, and the disadvantage, and I was trying to explain this to Lucy last night, one of the disadvantages of this medium as opposed to the game is that in the game, the actual time that you're spending between big plot beats is quite a lot of like human time, right? Like, you know, these episodes are 40 minutes long to an hour. In the game, to get that same amount of plot, you're playing that level for 7 hours. Or if you're good at games, I guess quicker, but I'm not. Because you're doing these combat encounters, you're dying constantly, there's chatter between the characters as you're going. And so the dilation of these events, they feel much more impactful and significant when they do happen, because there's more literal human time for you to be thinking and reflecting. But then when you get these payoffs, as opposed to, okay, we start the episode with Ellie grieving about Joel, and then we end the episode with them leaving. You then don't have like 6 hours of a gameplay loop in Washington with Dina before you get the federal. Like, there's just a way that the show, by the medium and the way that they've paced it, it can feel like they add stuff or something happens, and then it's like, bang, okay, we're over with, next thing, like, let's move on. Like, it can feel very protracted in that sense. And that was kind of what I meant at the start when I said that it feels real pacey in a way that I'm concerned about, because they can't, like, they are going to have to sell that this mission that Dina and Ellie are on was this huge undertaking that had all these risks and was this really poor idea and cost them dearly, you know, both physically and ethically and personally, and you know, all these different things. But it's like, well, actually, that's going to take place in 3 episodes of TV, all in all, right? And that, I think, is where I'm starting to become a little bit wary of the amount of screen time this episode takes up with its subject matter, that I think maybe could have been better served focusing on the main thrust of the story and keeping the Jackson stuff much more tight. May have given them more breathing room to do those kinds of things, whether it's flashbacks or conversations or whatever it may be. between Ellie and Dina talking about these things and characterizing Joel. And I think it's just an indelible challenge to the adaptation and the particular priorities of this adaptation being adding extra text to try and write themselves out of the problems of the game, in my opinion. And I think people's mileage is going to vary. I think some people are going to think this episode is like really great because you get to see the interior like workings of Jackson and like the politics and like all these things, but it's not interesting enough in any way for that to be something I want to see. Like if you could imagine, like, let's pretend that Joel was like the gruff general that was in charge of Jackson. What if after his death they have to spin up this council because he's not there to be like the Rick type, the authoritarian leader, and the whole thing's in disarray and they're inventing new procedures. Like, you could imagine a much more interesting version of this that isn't, we have a fully functional democracy because America, Anyway.
Yeah, it is funny that could almost have lived without the council scenes altogether.
Yeah, I was going to say a lot of this episode, like, I have to stress, I did enjoy it, but there were a lot of scenes that weren't, I'll just add, weren't in the game. And, like, it sort of felt like maybe we didn't need them, but, like, I'm glad we got them all the same. But I feel like as an adaptation, if you're going to add stuff like this, I don't know how to articulate what I'm thinking. Just, it seems like they added a lot to the show, and they took stuff out that is strange to me. And it is also equally strange to me that it's only 7 episodes long. I feel like you could have done maybe an extra episode, like, and included more stuff from the game. But then, I'm not the one adapting these things. I don't know what that would look like if they spent another episode. Maybe it would be boring for viewers, but it just, for me as a person coming from the game, it felt like there's a little bit getting lost in the shuffle of things. But perhaps, again, I'm very attached to the game, so there's also that. But
Interesting you bring that up there, because like, I was just thinking, like, some of the shows I've really loved are the ones where they do take that 1 or 2 episodes to just nothing happens but everything happens, if that makes sense. Like, not that it's filler, but that it's like world building, which then makes you appreciate the main story beats a lot more. Like, I feel like, I don't know if it's just 3 and 4, but it starts to feel a bit montagey, especially when they're like cutting around between different things happening rather than it being one coherent piece. Yeah.
Which is a criticism you guys have had before already of the sequencing of some of these episodes, where it does tend to montage in a way that I don't think the show is intent. Like, it's not cut like it's cut in a way that makes it feel like a montage, but the content isn't montage. Like,
yeah.
And that, it's like, well, you kind of have to pick a lane. Like, cinema has a language, and this language is conveying that this is a montage, but actually, these are all individual scenes that you need to be paying attention to.
Yeah, because if you miss one, you kind of miss the next bit.
It's funny how something that I feel very often, either when I'm watching a show or a movie, I'll start to watch it, and I feel this sense of like before the movie has captured me or the show has captured me, I'm like, it just feels like a series of scenes that are just kind of happening, and I'm waiting for something to click where it starts engrossing me, and I feel like I'm in the movie. It's no longer just these things happening, but there's meaning to be derived from it. And it's interesting how this show is choosing to place its scene, because there's never a point when I feel like a lack of anything. Like, I'm always engrossed in it. But at the same time, it does feel like scenes just are placed together. It's a weird thing, because what I'm saying is almost like 2 different, like, opposing forces. That's why I feel like it's hard to talk about because, again, like, I'm enjoying it. I'm sucked into the show. I'm I find that when I finish an episode, I want to continue to the next one. But then, like I said earlier, then I look back and I'm like, well, what just really happened? It does sort of feel montagey in that way. So I don't know. I struggled writing notes for these episodes too. I'll say that.
As did I.
don't know.
Yeah, I've written down very little in a way that is uncharacteristic, as I'm sure Darth will tell you. I've written down most of the dialogue of this episode of TV Guy normally, but I think I know why. And I'm going to pull on the method here, right? Which is that we spent probably the most amount of time on the internet that anyone's ever spent talking about Station 11. And one of the things that we talked about a lot in Station 11 is that is a show, also post-apocalypse, that will, the scene arrangement, right? This exactly what you talked about, Danielle. The sequencing of when we go from one scene to another scene is not motivated logically. It's motivated emotionally. So, as an example, a character will be having a conversation about a regret that they have, for example. And then we'll cut to another character in a different time doing something they will later regret. And that scene might end with someone talking about an object. And we'll then cut to a scene at a different time with a different character that involves that particular object. And it's about the weight of emotion and time and feeling and memory and like creativity and like what it means to be remembered and what it means to remember, and what it means to have trauma, and how you deal with that, and like what the place of art is and the meaning of life and all these things. But crucially, it's that mechanism of, and it comes from the books, right? Emily St. John Mandel does this in the novel as well, where there are all these scene handoffs that always feel resonant and like, they feel meaningful and impactful, and it never feels like you're watching a series of scenes strung together. It feels like you're watching the process. It's like how you experience life, right? Which is like you're in a room and something reminds you of something else, and your brain goes to a memory, and then someone hands you something, and then your attention's pulled elsewhere. And it just does this brilliant job of bringing you into the phenomenology of the story. This, by contrast, it feels like when we cut from a scene to another scene, it's either very literal, right? We get that at the start of the next episode where it's like, this is the same guy. Are you paying attention? Or there's no relationship between them, whether that be logical or emotional, right? And occasionally there is, sure, like, the cool shop effect is here, but I think episode 3 in particular, it feels like they shot a ton of stuff and they went, it's just way too long. And then they found it in the edit type of thing. That's kind of the vibe I get from episode 3.
I think
Is that because they locked themselves into 7 episodes?
I was gonna say, I think part of what we're seeing is just the format that they're forcing themselves to stick to, meaning like this dialogue happens in the game and then there's this action sequence. And much like Danielle was saying, like there were scenes that didn't feel like they should be there and they weren't in the game. There were scenes that felt to me like they shouldn't have been in the show, and I was like, this was in the game. Like when they find the guys hanging from the ceiling, and then they have to sneak out of the warehouse without getting seen, and then they have to go and sneak down into the subway to try to hide, and then they have to run away from the zombies.
And then there's like chasing.
And and like all of that is like ultimately pointless, except I'm just imagining like crouching in the game and you're doing the sneak thing, and then you got to go up behind and do an assassination move, and I'm like, I literally could see this is only here because this is what happened in the game, and I don't think this should be here because the show doesn't necessarily need this. And there are so many scenes that could have flowed, I think, better and transitioned from one spot to another. Like when they're in the forest and Dina gets shot by the arrow and then they split up. So then you could have the action scene, which I'm assuming is in the game, where Ellie has to run away from all of the people in the forest. They didn't need that either. They could have gone a different direction and stayed focused on the characters, which may have transitioned from one scene to another better. But because you keep having these action breaks that were in the game, the whole thing has that montage feel that y'all were describing.
I think that's so interesting that you're saying that, because I feel like that's sort of where I'm getting hung up, is that like I love seeing stuff from the game, but I agree, like it just feels like, why is it there? And it's weird because it is from the game, but it's not adapted like it is in the game, and it's just odd. Like they shrink everything down to like, okay, well, like I do recognize this scene from the game, but it's still like isn't really the same. And then they always feel the need to add hordes of enemies all the time, like when they're in the, I guess, subway, and there's this huge amount of infected, and I guess they do it for the, I was going to say the budget, but again, like just, the spectacle of it, it's exciting, they're running from the zombies, there's action, adventure, but yeah, it just feels, well, I guess
just quickly to interject, I think that was because of the problem that they introduced before that, was they had all of the wolf members. You had dozens of people chasing them so now you have to have dozens of opponents to defeat those dozens of people. So that horde didn't need to exist, like you said, if you get rid of those dozens of people. So they could just find all of, what are the smiley people?
Oh, the scars or seraphites.
Thank you, scars.
We should use.
All I had was like Joker going.
We should say seraphite because we're not racist on this show, and scars is clearly a racial derogatory term for them. In this house, we say seraphite.
I do think it's interesting that whole, like, it has to be like the video game. Like, we can't just let people enjoy the subject matter in, like, not a video gamey type scene. And it seems to recur a lot with these sorts of adaptations where you'll get scenes that are very clearly from a game. Like, I mean, we literally talked about last time how that scene with the big heavy dude felt very video gamey. And it's like, they could redo that in a way where it's still true to the beat of the storytelling, but it doesn't feel like you've just literally sat down with a PlayStation controller and you're pressing the buttons as the scene's going through,
I will add to that. That's what it feels like. They're trying to change things to adapt it to feel like a television medium, but then when it comes to the point where they can really lean into that, they don't. And I think that's where it's a little confusing for me as well.
I'm just going to take us to episode 4 because we're already talking about it. And then I want to circle back on... I have like a million thoughts about that scene in the sewers because it's one of the most iconic sequences in a video game, in my opinion. And like you were saying, Danielle, all the elements from the game are here, but it's not the same scene. Like, it's so... And it's a scene that would be perfect for like, you could imagine a scene like this lasting 8 minutes. It's like dead quiet the whole time. There's the tiniest amounts of sound effects. It's like deep suspense. It's them creeping around. You can do something you can't do in games, which is like cut to the perspective of the guys hunting them. Like there are so many, like it's prime to be like, yo, did you see that fucking episode of The Last of Us? It had like the best action sequence. They were so tense, like it was so sick, like, and they're just like, nah, I don't know. What if there was 200 zombies? Like,
well, right. That's the thing. What you just said, like in that scene, because there are infected in the game in that scene, and you use that to your advantage. You can throw a bottle and send the infected towards the WLF. That would be so tense if they took advantage of that and tried to use the zombies to their advantage, or the infected to their advantage. And they just cut it out. It's just strange choices. I don't know.
Or if like they make like they see each other, like the Wolf and the two girls, like the two parties see each other, and the soldiers are like, we're gonna shoot you. Oh, we can't. There's zombies.
Exactly.
And so now
right.
Oh, it would have been really cool.
Yeah.
That'd be so good. Where they're like, oh, we can't discharge our weapons. And then it's like, they put their rifles away and they pull out their knives. And then it's like cat and mouse, but also there's these fucking infected. Oh, dude, you kidding me?
And the lighting in the scene too, you could play with that and
Yeah.
like people hiding and stuff. That would be so cool.
They did a lot
And
of really
Ellie-
good stuff with the set design, I will say. Like in the
Yes,
it looked really good.
that is
One
true.
thing I like is about the show is how they do really hone in on their characteristics and try to stay true to that. So like if that scene had happened, Ellie would have been like, whispering at them, if you do it, I'm gonna scream. If you do it, like I'll kill us all. I will scream.
Or
I will
I'll
do
smash
it.
this
And
bottle
then
against
Dina
the
would be
wall
like,
or
no,
something.
no. Yeah. And Dina would be like, don't you do that, you idiot.
Right.
Alas, we can't always have what we want. Much like that very not good Rolling Stones song. Danielle, when you're ready, let's move on to episode 4 because we're already there. Unless anyone has anything else in episode 3.
Just that the
Um,
grave scene was very pretty. That's all.
Oh yes,
Mm.
agreed.
Oh yeah, gorgeous. I bet we both remarked out loud, holy shit, this is a very good looking TV program.
Very cinematic.
Thank you, Wyoming. We appreciate it.
Thank you for being so cinematic.
Thanks for being so cinematic, Wyoming.
There's a song in there somewhere.
Yeah.
How does this one end? Because we probably need to mention the bite and
That's
the
next.
revelation of
No. So
That's next
that's
one?
episode 4. We're not there yet. So this episode ends with
This
Ellie-
one ends with like the weird sort of, isn't it that weird like flashback cut to the Seraphites and then they like end up at
Oh.
Seattle or something?
yeah. So Ellie and Dina
Like
leave.
they find the massacre at the end that we flash back to at the start of the episode, I think, was it, or something? It was
I don't know
weird.
if that's the end of the episode. I guess I don't remember.
Yeah. So
Or maybe it is.
yeah, we get initially a brief sequence with the Seraphites with the
Yeah, okay. I'm not
with the
missing
little
anything.
girl.
Yeah.
That's how this episode ends. Ellie and Dina leave. The last that we see them is they're riding out of town and have the encounter with Seth, and then we get the scene with the Seraphites where it's setting you up for a shock later because it's giving you this little girl. She's asking for a hammer. They will be slaughtered like animals, Anakin. In the next episode. And so Dina and Ellie will come upon that. So yeah, this episode does end with that. Obviously, you guys can probably figure out because of how video games work, this is new as well. Like, you can't just watch a scene of something that isn't related. That would be weird. I guess unless you're Halo. But that's a whole other can of worms. Yeah, that's where this episode ends. The next one starts with the Isaac flashback. If that helps you guys sequence-wise.
Oh yes.
So,
And that's what made the pregnancy test thing for me go like, wait, what? It's been over 11 years? How are these things still working? But yes.
yeah, it's been 20 years since the end of the world, I think.
Has it? Okay. Man,
Yeah,
I'd
'cause
love
when
to
does
not
it end?
age for 20 years.
2003?
2003, and in the game it's 1993, right? Is that right?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Or no, maybe I went backwards.
Oh, are
I
they
don't know.
around?
Never
No,
mind. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't know. I don't remember.
They do it so
I
that
think
the
that
first
was right.
season takes place at the same time that the show releases in 2023. If that makes sense. And it's been 20... Maybe it's been longer than 20... Anyway. Someone
Yeah.
got
Sorry,
furious
yeah.
at us in... And this was like a real Reddit comment. In the previous bit of coverage that we did for The Last of Us Season 1, where they, like... We were talking with like a lot of authority about the game, and they were like mad that we didn't know how long it had been since the end of the world in the game. I was like, what a weird thing to get hung up on. Like, anyway, it had real Reddit energy.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a cinema sins ass comment.
It truly
If I ever heard
is.
one. Like, just
Well, if Batman
Anyway.
really wanted to stop the Joker, it's like, shut up.
Right.
Shut up. Anyway, we're talking about episode 4, Day 1, directed by Kate Herron. Again, these last names, man, they're too similar. Written by Craig Mazin, and you're going to see Craig Mazin is the writer of all of these episodes, except for one episode later that could only have been written by 3 people. Danielle.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, it's not good. When you are ready, could we please hear the summary for episode 4?
All right. During the end of the world, Isaac slays his Fedra squad to ally with the burgeoning revolutionary cell, the WLF. In the now, Isaac leads the WLF as a brutal, violent factionalist. He tortures and kills a defenseless Seraphite. Now he has become the monster. How very sophisticated and clever. There's good people and bad people on both sides, don't you know? Ellie and Dina arrive in Seattle to find the city lousy with WLF. They have a romantic moment in a record store. Later, they flee soldiers through the subway, only to be pincered between infected and the WLF. As they escape, Ellie is bit by a zombie. The pair flee to an empty theater where Ellie insists she is immune. A distraught Dina does not believe her. Dina sits awake all night waiting for Ellie to turn, but in the morning, Ellie's immunity is proven. Dina admits she is pregnant, and in a rush of relief, the two finally kiss and make love. Radio chatter reveals Nora's location at the hospital. Dina insists on finishing what they started and not be shelved in the theater, a writing choice that unnecessarily dunks on the game. So true.
So true. I was like, wow, that's rude. If I was Neil Druckmann, I'd be pissed if I saw this. I'd be like, wow, that calling me out like that? One of the
Right.
one of the seminal pieces of criticism about the game, and I'm presenting this as like value neutral. I don't want to like color this with my perspective. Is in the game, here I go again. Just the Rick and Morty meme. Here I go killing. Here I go talking about the game again. But Dina gets shelved the second that she reveals she's pregnant. She stays behind in the theater the whole time. There's like a seminal piece of criticism about the game. Is like she's not even that pregnant. She can still do stuff. It's fine.
That pregnant.
Anyway, okay, so
Which is, it's funny because that's an argument I've gotten in with so many Star Wars fans because I did 2 different videos about how Padme's character was ruined throughout Episode 3 because she just stops doing anything.
Yeah.
After she's pregnant, and half of the audience is like, "Yes, you cannot do anything while you're pregnant." And then the other half is agreeing with me, and it's like women were literally working, like tilling the land while pregnant through most of human history.
Like people realize there's 3 trimesters, right? Like in the first one, it's probably you're okay, and then like, okay, maybe later on, and like, interesting that it keeps coming up. But
I just
literally
think that,
right now, know somebody who's in their first trimester and they're still doing stuff. Like, it's not.
Yeah, the problem continues to be that men write a lot of stuff, I think is the real issue, is that men write most things, and men are still in charge of everything, and men do not understand pregnancy. As a man who barely understands pregnancy, it is the one thing in a story where it's like, if you're putting that in, buddy, you better do your research. Like, you've got to be...
Talk to people.
Yeah. Talk to the women in
You
your
think
life.
the guy that wrote
Okay.
House MD didn't talk to doctors? Like...
One argument in support of the show is that all of the people who are telling her like you can't do this because you're pregnant, they are talking about protecting the baby. They are not saying that you cannot do this because physically your pregnancy is limiting you. So in that case, they did write this properly. That is the way to handle it.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I just find that an insufficient...
I don't agree with the...
Yeah. Like, I understand
Yeah,
what
I
you're
don't
saying.
agree with that mindset.
Yes, and I understand what the show is saying. But, sorry, I understand what the game is saying. What I like about is that the show goes, no, we disagree with that. But then in the very next episode, they're like, but we're still going to shelve her.
Well, I will add to that I was never upset entirely about the Dina choice in the game, only because it leans more into Ellie just being isolated from people. I think it is a shame we don't get more Dina, and I remember being sad about that, but I'm largely okay with it because of where the game goes, or the story goes, I should say.
Yeah, it lets
But I'm not sad that she's sticking around in the show.
You make a good point, which is you spend that first day in Seattle, like, or maybe it's day 2, I can't remember. The first one where you're basically alone for 6 hours, and all you're doing is like creeping through an empty city, murdering people, looting empty build. Like it communicates and this is one of the biggest criticisms of the game that Rob Zachney in the article I was reading out last time one of the seminal criticisms is tonally, it's just a really bleak video game. But that impact of that whole day always really sells it to me, where you spend that whole day alone and you're miserable and it's raining and everyone's trying to kill you, and then it's like, and then you get to the end of the day and you're like, now I have to do a murder on somebody, for God's sake. Like, and it's just so harrowing. And then you get Jesse's arrival in the game and you're like, thank God. Like, this is so depressing. Now my body's here. So I think that those things work really well for me in the game. I just think the mechanism, it turns out it's really easy. She could have just been shot in the leg. Easy way to bench her. Like, just injure her. You know, I don't think that we should necessarily conceive of pregnancy as an injury. It's just the way that the game imagines it.
True.
So,
out of curiosity, hopefully quickly, is Ellie more competent in the game? Or maybe since if you're playing her, then maybe you're the competent part. But it kept hitting me, like when y'all were talking about the, you know, like the buddy cop synergy that she and Dina have. And I was like, I would not go anywhere with Ellie. Like, I like a lot about her, but she would get you killed so quickly. She had no plan for anything at all. And if Dina was benched, how could she ever survive? You know what I'm trying to say?
No, it's funny you bring that up because I actually wrote a note about that. That in I'm sorry, I just keep going back to the game. In the game, Ellie is more competent. And it's interesting because what stood out to me on a replay was that, like, she doesn't feel like, as you're playing the game, it doesn't feel all that different from playing part 1 with Joel. Like, obviously it feels different in the sense that you're playing a different character and there's differences in the gameplay slightly, but she knows what she's doing. And then it makes you realize, oh, this girl is 18 years old performing acts of violence that are so just no 18-year-old should be doing. And I think the game, whether the game is acknowledging that or not, that's something that stood out to me. The show, Ellie is not, I'm not going to say she's not competent at all, but she's much, I was going to say sillier, but she is much sillier.
yeah, what you're saying is that she's dump statted into combat and she has a wisdom of like 1. Like, she's failing every wisdom saving throw every single time, but you better believe she's the person at the table itching for combat, because you know that she's got like a double action. She's got like, you know, she's a barbarian, so she can do like a triple action on like use one of her bonus actions to throw a weapon. Like, she's so ready to fight. But then it's like you put her in a conversation and she's rolling like 1s the whole time. Is the way that they've written her, you know? Which
to be fair, like, I want to make it clear that the comment I just made is not me saying the game is better or that the show is worse. Like, just a comment on like how Ellie is different from game to show. It's, I think it's fine for the most part, but I do wonder, I don't know if it's the lack of maturity or whatever, but like, I wonder how Ellie's going to be on her own. Or I guess Jesse will be with her. I haven't watched 6 and 7 yet, so I don't know how that goes, but yeah.
For my money, they've written her to be a lot more like Joel, but without his maturity and without all of his like particular traumas. Where Joel gets away with bloody murder, literally, and figuratively, because he is charming. He's got an easiness to him that people find, like, they get annoyed with him and they get annoyed with his choices, but no one's really going to stand up to him ever, because they know that he's got, you know, he's got the combat stats, he's got the ability to do all these things that are valuable. He seems to always have it, like, even in situations where he fucks up, he has an answer for everything. I think that they're writing Ellie to be a lot more aligned to who Joel maybe was when he was younger, in a way that I actually think is really keen in a way, because I think it paints a portrait of a character who has grown up with a certain privilege that colors everything they see and do, And so, like, she hasn't had to learn that wisdom because she's had Joel around. Like, she hasn't had to learn tactical intelligence because she has Dina and Tommy. Like, I think it's compelling characterization because it does make the question of, okay, well, when she's by herself, what does she do? And puts her in contrast, really importantly, with a character like Abby, who multiple times throughout the show, people are like, Abby's the fucking goat of war. She's the best person at doing war we've ever seen in our entire lives. This one, she's so good at war, you won't believe it. And by contrast, you've got Ellie, who can't even triangulate a location from, like, radio chatter, right? I think that's really fun to me.
He says like it's the easiest thing ever.
Like it's just a day-to-day casual thing that you do.
Right?
Yeah.
Y'all aren't triangulating?
I
That's
was gonna
great.
say,
No, I
pull out
can't
your
say I am.
protractor. Like,
Yeah.
where is it?
Okay.
He's just at the pub, just
Yep.
Sorry, I'll just grab my sextant and we can navigate around the
Right.
world so I can navigate, like I normally do.
Yeah, it's crazy that
Yep.
y'all aren't triangulating. You're going to be triangulating in 2025, ladies and gentlemen. It's the year of
true.
triangulation.
Mhm.
So, we start the episode with Fedra and the WLF. And politics are here, baby. Danielle, did I hallucinate this? Or is Isaac is played by the same actor in the game, right? It's still Jeffrey Wright in the game?
Yes. Yes.
Only character in the show who's played by the same person in the game, which is really
Well,
fun.
at least for season 2.
True.
Season 1, why am I blanking on her name? I
Oh,
should know her
Tess.
name. Fuck.
Tess, right?
No, not Tess.
Not Tess.
Mm-mm.
Huh?
The leader of the Fireflies. Why am I blanking on her name? Marlene.
Marlene. Oh, is that the same
Yes.
actress?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's dope. That's so
I love
fun.
that. I will point out real quick, as an actor note, that we have the cocky Fedra member talking as that is Josh Peck of Drake and Josh fame.
Oh, okay. That
Which-
makes so much more sense now. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, oh wow, didn't expect to see him here, but cool.
He's a little kind of like, he's like a weeby kind of like scared wet blanket type of guy.
Not well. Are we talking about the same? He's the one who's like boasting or telling the story.
Oh, okay. No,
The other
Yeah.
guy, I recognize him, but I don't know the actor's name. I
Yeah.
do recognize him.
But so Isaac is some kind of squad leader of Fedra. Fedra are like the what does Fedra stand for? Federal
forget.
something. Federal Disaster Response Agency. So they're like the remnants of the government in Boston in particular. As we know from the first game, they've kind of descended into like heavy-handed authoritarianism. You get that in the first season where you can't leave the city and you need papers and all these things, and that's sort of why Joel and Tess have become smugglers. It is sort of a counterweight to these Fedra agents. And Isaac blows up his whole squad and allies with the WLF, the burgeoning Washington Liberation Front, who are presumably founded in response to Fedra, right? They're ostensibly a revolutionary cell at this point. And this, I don't want to be too unkind because I think this is like genuinely interesting television. I think like Jeffrey Wright, as ever, like you put a character actor like him in a show like this, and he's just gonna steal every scene he's in. The kind of steadiness that he has as he goes about, the casual nature with which he goes about betraying his squad, and then the monologue, the villain speech about the pans is just so good. Jeffrey Wright just brings this gravity and this weight that you absolutely need for a character like Isaac. But these two scenes to me, as they play out in sequence, are, I think, this season of TV, or the back half of this show, I should say, so seasons 2 and presumably 3, is the first time that they've articulated their thesis just directly, which is Isaac betrays Fedra because Fedra are doing the wrong thing, right? They have taken away people's right to vote. They become this authoritarian power. And then, right, then he lives long enough to see himself become the villain and to become the authoritarian dictator, because cycles of violence, right? However you want to conceive of the dumb, small take that people have on these games, that is ostensibly what this is sort of laying forward, which is, if you get right down to it and you toss out the lazy thinking of like cycles of violence or whatever, it is the notion of personal loyalty and personal motivation clashing with institutional allegiance and institutional needs, right? Isaac betrays the institution of Fedra because he believes they're doing the wrong thing. When we flash forward to him being in charge of the WLF, he's torturing this Seraphite, and it's unclear if it's for because he's personally invested in the institution, or if he's doing it for the institution. And the way that the soldiers react, the first guy being horrified, and the second guy, who was originally the kind of wet blanket guy, he's like, oh, well, like it's what they deserve, right? And so he's built an institution seemingly focalized around his own personal bias, or focalized around a bias that has emerged as like or that has been produced as an emergent property of the post-apocalypse. But either way, it's putting those things in tension, right? It's the personal loyalties and the personal motivation with the institution, right? That's the same thing that Ellie and Dina deal with in the previous episode, where it's, these are our personal loyalties and feelings, and the institution of Jackson has other priorities. And it's, when are you willing to undercut one of those and the other? And we'll get that, played out later on as well. I imagine with a character like Abby being part of the WLF, and also having her own personal motivations with her father's death and her pursuit of completing her revenge of Joel. So it's all here laid out. And these two scenes to me they do a really good job of conveying that, and also being truly hard to watch. When he turns around and he's got the pan, and like the scene started and he's doing the speech, and Lucy's like, oh no, like this is like a talk, like this is the kind of guy who's doing a monologue, and he's going to turn around, there's going to be like a naked guy chained up, and then he turned around, there was a naked guy chained up. Like, it's the conveyance that these scenes have, and the way that it teaches you to understand the show, I think is really, really spot on. Like, it's very tightly written, it's really well thought through. Whether you agree with the political ideas or not, they're deeply freighted. I think it does a great job of conveying, hey, here's what this show is about, in case you haven't picked up on it yet. This is what the season of TV is about.
Yeah, it's really laying out their whole, I guess, a thesis of just like cycle of violence. Like, that's literally, I mean, there's more to it than just that, but they laid it out very plainly in that torture scene. I literally wrote in my notes, like, torture scene is about cycle of violence. Get it? Oh. Like,
oh. Yeah.
But,
it's a bit cute for me, but I still think it really works.
Yeah, I agree.
I would have appreciated a little fake out, like he's doing the whole monologue and he's got the pans and like he legitimately starts cooking, and you're expecting to see the naked chained up guy when you turn around, and finally Isaac turns around and the dude is just, the scar is just sitting like at a table, and he's like waiting for the meal to be placed in front of him, and he's still the prisoner, but it's like, oh, Isaac is just like legitimately making a meal and talking to the prisoner, and you think everything's okay until you get to the cycle of violence, as opposed to just like jumping straight into it, or completely just rewriting him so that he's not immediately a dictator right when he leaves the people who were the dictators. Like, I don't know. Like, I loved the jump out of the vehicle and throw a grenade in and like, oh, everything's so cool, but then it doesn't go anywhere. It's like if you wanted to take charge and be an authoritarian leader, then you could have done that where you were, because you were already working your way up the ladder.
So it's been 20 years, to be clear, between those two scenes. Right?
Way more time than I thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's,
thank you.
Yeah, and the thing that you have to try and imagine is like, what they're trying to do with that is go, he started here being the guy who's like, hey, it's bad that we took away their right to vote, And hey, if that's controversial to say out loud because you live in America, it might be bad that someone takes away your right to vote. Just saying. You start there, and then you you get all the way to the point where you're the person who is chaining up the innocent people, and he starts going off at this guy, being like, the Seraphite's like, oh, well, like, he goes, oh, why did you do this? And Seraphite's like, oh, because you couldn't. And he goes, yeah, that's because you taught them to kill, da da da. And then they're back and forth, and it's like, I get it. Like, I understand. You don't have to keep doing this. You could have, like, it's a little on the nose. But the point that I think the show is trying to make is that within this context, you can choose to be someone who aligns himself with a violent faction that is focused on survival, or you can find yourself aligned with a violent faction that is focused on, in this case, for the WLF, literal genocide, right? They are trying to wipe the Seraphites off the face of the map. We will get to it, I guess, in potentially the next... Again, I'm not really sure how much of this is here, but one of the biggest criticisms, or one of the biggest surface areas for media criticism of the story here, particularly lots have been written about it in the game, is that this is pretty obviously Israel and Palestine, right? Shot through with all of Neil Druckmann's personal experience from childhood, shot through with his understanding of violence from the first game and from Uncharted, shot through with, in my opinion, a misapprehension of like how these things began, and like Pat is much better at talking about this than I am because he's much more of a history buff. But like, if you look at how the violence begins and proliferates, it's not a like there are good people on both sides type thing. It's like one side set out to eradicate the other, and the other is in a perpetual state of reacting to that. I understand that's what they're doing here, right? Isaac runs the WLF. They're deeply militant. They are obviously supposed to be Israel in a very direct way. They're a newer institution as well, whereas the Seraphites, they seem to have religion behind them, right? It's pretty obvious what they're doing here. And so him being cartoonishly evil also makes more sense if you consider the actual parallels that this is trying to paint with Gaza City. Whether that works or not is entirely another question. I did just want to like call that out as a thing that is certainly here.
So are the Seraphites, are they explained more in the game, or do you think the show will eventually explain more?
The show will, I imagine, eventually explain. I mean, it will explain more.
It'll have to.
Yeah, it'll have to. I mean, I was hesitating because, I mean, actually, I'm not gonna say what I was gonna say because it will be a little spoilery for the game that we haven't gotten to. So never mind. But yes, they will. They will go into it.
Well, okay. So at this point in the show, we have heard the prisoner, and I think we've seen one or two like portraits, like murals painted up on buildings of the woman goddess leader, whatever that they worship. The
Holy Mother or something, right? Whatever it is.
Yeah, and so immediately my very first thought was they're going to think this is Ellie is the reincarnation of this goddess. And I had zero doubt in my mind that is where this story is going to go.
What has gone wrong with you the last couple years? You keep doing this to yourself, and I don't understand. This was like when you were at Station 11, you were like, oh, like I thought that it was going to be werewolves. I'm like, what are you talking about? What do you mean?
I've got to go find that clip. I swear it was a werewolf that jumped out.
I promise you, it's in the edit. I play that clip in slow motion. It couldn't more obviously be a wolf, but never mind. Okay, so in your head, that's so fascinating. Okay, yeah, I guess.
Well, so like structurally, there is no point to introduce a visual. They don't need to be worshiping someone necessarily. Making her female when we have a female lead now, or maybe two female leads, and I don't know, like all of that together. I was like, intentionally they did all of this, so intentionally they're leading us somewhere. Where would that be? It's got to be one of these two girls filling that role for these worshipers. Like all of that made sense to me, and it
I mean, that's incorrect, but I can see how you got there.
yeah.
Yeah. No, Sam.
It's yeah, I get it. But there, I it, and this is okay. What I was saying before about like this show is doing a good job of teaching you how to watch it. That's probably a good exception to that rule. Like there might be the exception that proves the rule.
That's how not to do it.
Yeah, that's they tell you not to do that one in school. Yeah, it's cool. I seeing it in real life is kind of surreal. I don't know. This occasionally in this show, they'll do something where they're like, "Here's a thing from the game," and I'm like, "It's so weird seeing this in real life. Like, it's really cool, but it's also really weird." Where I'm like, how do normal people know about Dina? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, oh, you can go to the have a water cooler conversation about Dina and Ellie. That's crazy to me. Like,
Yeah, same.
yeah, the future's a weird place to be living. Let me tell you.
On the note of Seraphites, real quick, I just want to add that, as I said, like they will add more. I imagine, well, they will in season 3, but I should also add, and I'm gonna make a statement that could potentially be incorrect, but I'm 99% sure I'm right. I don't think they ever name the Seraphites in Ellie's section of the game. I don't think she, because there's no reason for her to hear that. I mean, maybe in like documents she picks up,
I think
it might say Seraphite.
You can read a note in that first open world area, and it's in like the back of a room, and it's where you find like a camp out from an XWLF, and there's like, you know, ammo and stuff, and there's a note there that references Seraphite specifically, and it's like a letter between one WLF soldier to another. But unless you're going and actively seeking that, I think that's the only mention. I could be wrong.
I mean, true, but I mean, and it is a mention, I guess, in some. I mean, it is a mention, but yeah, I guess not everybody reads everything in the game. But at least I guess I'll then retract my statement and say it's hardly mentioned, the word Seraphite. Like, they are scars to Ellie. Like, all this stuff that they're adding right now, like introducing us to them and like the WLF and their conflict. Like, you know there's a conflict, but you don't understand really any of it at all in Ellie's story. It is not fleshed out at all.
Yeah, it's a
so
backdrop.
They're giving us a lot more. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like it's a thing that's happening in the background of her quest, right? It's not germane in any way to what she's doing. Until the forest, where she has to briefly interact with it, and then it's like, it's one level, and then you move on, and then you don't really think about them again when you're playing as Ellie.
Yeah, I was trying to think if there's any other encounters, but I can't remember outside of that one.
There's like, it's like one of the really bright levels where it's like grassy and it's like on a hill, and there's all these houses that are like down the hill, and you have to like sneak through a bunch of Seraphites. That's like the only other encounter, I think.
Yeah.
I like that this game just is like hermetically sealed in my brain. Like, I have almost perfect recall for this in the first game. There's something about them that is just, yeah, they're sticky in that way.
They are. It's true.
So we've kind of talked around it already, but obviously when we go back to Dina and Ellie, we get Dina going for the pregnancy tests, and then the guitar scene, which is they talk about selling an emotion. The progressive way that Dina starts welling up as this goes on is because she already comes upstairs when Ellie started playing, and she already looks emotional. And then when she, like, I thought that this was just one of the few times where I think, again, and I talked about it the last time, like, I think Isabel Merst is charged with one of the hardest jobs this show has, which is give us a Dina who can produce these emotions that feel authentic in the right moments, that don't just feel like crying on cue. And like, this to me is just such a phenomenal job of like actor and director coming together, and the scene just completely working. I think it's brilliant. Obviously, not to say that Bella Ramsey doesn't also do a great job, but yeah, really a standout performance from Dina in this episode for me.
Now, I just need to point out that guitar would never have been in tune because there would have been too much moisture damage to the wood. And
Well, she tuned it, to be fair. So.
I was doing a bit. Leave
me alone. Let me do a joke, dude. Let me do a bit. Wait, what are you, the bit police now? I absolutely would be on this show. They, and this occasionally happens, they're doing it less and less this season than the previous, but there's a lot of the time with the way the game's cutscenes are organized, they'll end on like an iconic shot of like an object, and they do that with this scene with the guitar to great effect, where you're just sort of sitting there thinking about Joel and like Ellie and Dina's relationship with Joel, and like Ellie's relationship with music and their relationship with each other, and having the knowledge of what Dina's thinking about here goes a long way as well. There's all these conflicting emotions that she has. Seeing Ellie play this guitar, it's just stunning. I don't have anything constructive to say. It's just a really good scene of TV.
Yeah, agreed.
Can Bella Ramsey sing? Is this really her doing it?
I think it's her doing it. I mean, it sounds like her.
Yeah, she's really good.
Yeah, she did a good job.
Yeah, because I can't sing for shit, so I was like, could you imagine being an actor and someone be like, hey, now you have to sing, and you're like, I can't. Sorry.
That wasn't on my CV.
Yeah, that's not a skill I have.
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime I see an actor who has to do these longer scenes of singing sections and it's not the norm for them, like instant props. Like she did a really good job, like just carrying a tune. Her voice sounded even. Like, I don't know all the language to use here about like good singing, but I think she did a really nice job overall.
Yeah.
Darth, you're the only one of us that is a trained musician. Was this good?
It was good.
Okay, there you go. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen.
Those are my professional notes.
Yeah. That's where like you're really phoning it in. So it was like, oh, what do you think about this? And you're like, I don't know, man. It's fine. Whatever. Like, we would never do that on this show. Always 110% effort. We never phone anything in. We've already talked about it, but the next thing we get is the subway fight with the red light. Again, truly iconic, like visual aesthetic.
Mm-hmm.
Action scene we've already talked about. I don't need to dwell on it too much. It does end, though, we haven't said this, it ends with a really great like physical like gag moment of they're running through like a turnstile out of the subway, and Ellie gets through, and then Dina gets stuck, and they've got to like kind of keep jamming this rusted turnstile. That was just like a really good classic horror, like you're trapped, you can't get out. Oh fuck, the thing's coming. And she saves Dina by sort of getting bit instead. And then once again, Isabel Mercer says, "Don't worry, guys, I got you, bro," and acts the hell out of the last 8 minutes of this episode. And like, this is such a heightened way to have this sequence play out, where Ellie gets bitten, they go to the theater, and the whole time it keeps cutting to like her, like Dina not looking at Ellie, cuts to her gun. Like, you can it does a really good job of communicating this like perfect mixture, this like cocktail of like heartbreak, grief, anger, distress, hope, as Ellie's like, no, like, don't shoot me, I'm immune, like, I promise, like, it's fine, like, I'm immune. And you can tell that Dina doesn't believe her, because why would you believe someone?
All of the prior evidence suggests that you would turn.
Yeah. And so she's mentally preparing to shoot her best friend in the head. And as we know, Ellie's immune. And when she wakes up later that night, Dina kind of comes over, and the realization that Ellie's immune lands. Dina admits that she's pregnant. And then that's where they finally kiss, and they have their sex scene.
The devil's tango.
A thing The thing that Lucy said, which I didn't think about, but is a really good point, is first of all, I'm pregnant, and then the sex is just like this weird timing wise of like when this thing happens. But then second to that, and this is the cinema sense thing that I have, is even if Ellie's immune, the bite just happened. I would not be exchanging bodily fluid this quickly.
It's just a flesh wound.
Like, and I didn't think
It's
about
merely
it.
a flesh wound.
And I was like, first of all, Lucy, gross, but second of all, good point. It just, yeah, I'm curious. This being the moment where they get together, how did this scene work for you guys, or where didn't it? Or yeah, I'm curious on how everyone else felt.
I feel like a lot of times in media, sex scenes are brought on somewhat awkwardly, and I feel like I'm constantly being like, really now? So it didn't, I don't know if maybe tropey is the right word. It just felt like, yeah, a show would do this now. Like, I didn't dislike it or like it or dislike it. It just kind of, I mean, I liked the scene overall. I'm happy that happened. But what led to it was sort of like, oh, okay, sure.
I think if you cut out the whole pregnant bit, then it would make sense. Like if it's just immediately from like, you're going to die to, oh, now you're alive. Okay.
Right.
Like that would make a lot more sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But if you add in the pregnant bit, then it turns into, oh, you're pregnant. That's such a turn on. Here I come. Like it's kind of weird.
It's
Yeah,
a bit odd.
that's true.
Yeah.
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 They're much more optimistic in the show about like the whole pregnancy thing, because in the game, like Ellie is just mean. Very
Yeah,
mean.
they like fight about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very strange. The thing that I'm reminded of is, and I'm not specifically thinking of The Last of Us in this context. I'm more thinking about things like Lord of the Rings, where Lord of the Rings with the they add the Arwen Aragorn romance in the films in a way that's incredibly effective and like adds an element of tragedy to both characters that is absent in the books. By contrast, by the time that you're in Seattle with Ellie and Dina, they've basically been together since before Joel died, right? Like they get together the night before he dies. They've been together the whole time. It becomes a thing that's between them rather than a thing that brings them together in like the narrative structure. And what I think is interesting about this choice here is that Jesse's about to show up. So it makes the timing even weirder, where it's like that if anything, this Jesse should have a problem with them being together, right? Like it really feels like it's, structurally that's the thing that should happen next. I'm not sure if that is what's going to happen next or not. My feeling is probably not. Just very like the timing of it is very odd. And does again feel maybe a victim of episode 3 having too much airtime in Jackson before we get them on the road, having the banter, like bopping around Seattle with the girl that you like is like fundamentally like a fun thing to see, right, and an experience. And yeah, the timing of this just feels very strange.
Yeah. I would agree. I was wondering for a while watching the show, like, when something would happen, because, yeah, there's, like, some chemistry between the two of them, but also it can be very much read as, like, two very good friends as well. And I was surprised because I was like, oh, are they not leaning into that more? Like, I know they had their kiss, but then nothing really seemed to come of it. And
like there
so
wasn't any romance. It was just kind of like buddy cop energy.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm glad this scene happened because I'm like, oh, finally we got there. I felt more relief, if anything else, from the scene. Not so much the emotional payoff that maybe it wanted. But again, that could be just because it's coming from somebody who's played the game who knows certain things. So
Is it weird that it happened at this like sort of halfway point of the story? Because in a whole lot of like action adventure stories, the love interest, like the kiss, doesn't happen until like at the conclusion,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. Structurally, it's placed. It either should be at the start and it becomes a complicating factor, or it happens at the end as like a payoff to the. Yeah, like a rom-com is the same thing, right? They get together at the start, then they don't get together, and then they get together at the very end once they figured it out. You know, that's like the thing. I will defend the show briefly because we do get the scene in. I want to say it's episode 3. It's just after they've left and they're camping. Like they've been on the horse all day and they're camping at night, and it's the most Dina has ever flirted with Ellie, where she's like, "So about that kiss, if you had to rate that kiss, and it was the most like these two characters are flirting with each other, type of vibe." So they do some of that, to be fair. I just think it is the timing to what Darth is saying. It happens both too early and too late at the same time. Yeah. But that's kind of everything I have for episode 5. I guess we do end, we've already said this, but we end with Dina kind of reiterating her willingness to complete this quest with Ellie, and we also get the news that Nora is at the hospital. Those are kind of the two beats that we get at the end here.
Talking about episode 4, right?
Sorry, episode 4.
Not 5?
Yes.
I was like,
Yeah.
is my memory that bad?
No, I was looking at the word episode 5, and so I said episode 5 is what happened there. But yeah, that is episode 4. Anything else that you guys want to touch on with episode 4 before we take a brief break?
I don't think so.
I was gonna say I thought it was mildly out of character for Ellie not to do a fake little zombie screech when like the next morning. You know, she's like, "Oh, Dina, I didn't turn."
I did think about that,
Yeah.
and I was like, but occasionally she has to make good decisions.
Yeah.
Occasionally. Also, it does super feel like Dina might blow her brains out, so maybe not worth risking it.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. That's Darth's rewrite. Is doing a little practical joke. Cool. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back to talk about episode 5. This post-apocalypse unit is sponsored by the Maynard Trigg series. You can find these books at underink.press. They are my science fantasy coming-of-age novels. If you like post-apocalypse fiction, I guarantee you'll like these novels. They take place in a dying world far above the earth in the skies. They are fantasy novels. They are mystery novels. They are coming-of-age. If you enjoy the things we talk about and the way we talk about them, I guarantee you'll like these novels. Use code REVIEW10 at checkout. That's REVIEW10 at checkout for 10% off the original hardback of the first novel. That's this one right here. Once again, REVIEW10 at underink.press to grab your copy of the first Maynard Trigg book today.
Yeah, I literally forgot I had headphones on, so that just scared the bejesus out of me.
It's just me jump scaring you. Like, Darth.
Yeah.
Darth, it's me, your conscience.
We used to do that when we, golly, that was so long ago now. Back in like 2009 when we first started doing filmmaking, every once in a while, like all of the actors would just look into the camera and go, "Hi!" So when I'm editing like 3 months later, I would not see it coming, and it got me every time.
I think this show definitely has that with Pat's cats, where I'll be doing the edit, and it will come through in Discord because it'll have like cleaned it up or whatever. But like his cat will like headbutt his microphone, and it's like the biggest jump scare because I'll be like editing with my headphones on at like 1 a.m. and it'll be like bang, and I'll be like, oh, like gets me every time.
Yeah, my cat was doing that before.
Yeah, always a good jump.
I should send a video of my cat earlier today. if you'll excuse the messy apartment. But like, he gets so loud, and he like will just howl to the high heavens. He goes up to like the highest point in my apartment, and he has a very squeaky meow. So he just kind of like will go like constantly. And I got the best video of it today while I was working from home. He like, from the moment I woke up till probably like 2 p.m. just non-stop crying, wanted me to hold him. And I'm like, oh, little man, I gotta work a little bit.
Yep, that's the mood.
Truly just up there, huh?
Got to do at least some work.
Oh yeah, it's like
They
a
come
really
and
squeaky.
sit on your mouse and they click the button and it's like, no.
I left my laptop open by accident last night.
Oh, big mistake.
Oh yeah. And I woke up this morning. Unfortunately, no damage was done, but they did turn off my my mouse pad, which is easy to turn back on. And they started to try to project my screen somewhere. They didn't they didn't get
Doing
very
the screen
far.
mirroring. Love that.
They tried. I guess they didn't complete the action. Thank God.
That's funny. Can't live with him. Can't live without him. You know?
It's so true.
Yeah.
I love them.
I was about to say we're missing out, David.
Yeah. Well, I'm fine. I'm good on pets. I'm good.
He's like, I'm okay with that.
I'm fine with that. Yeah.
To be fair, I don't blame you. I love my cats so much, but there are just very basic things that I cannot do because I have them. Like, would love to have a green screen behind me. My cats would destroy it.
Yeah. It's
I
true.
guess
But then the opposite is true, where the only person who can destroy things is me in my apartment. And so when something does go wrong, it's always my fault. There's no one else I can
Yeah,
blame,
but-
unfortunately.
true, but you can leave a glass of water out and nobody's gonna knock it over. I mean, I guess you could potentially.
I was gonna say, you don't know my coordination levels, Danielle.
Fair. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to assume. I'm sorry.
I did a couple weeks ago. I went up to get, I don't know what I was doing, but I was moving a candle from like one cabinet to my desk because I was doing something. And in the process of doing that, I was holding the candle and I just mopped and I'd forgotten that the area that I was in my own head about something. I'd forgotten that I shouldn't be walking through one part, slipped on the tiles. The candle went flying. The candle knocked the glass that I had on the table off of the table, destroying both the glass and the candle. And I was just standing there like, fuck. I'm not wearing shoes either, so I'm like, this is a problem now. That's the type of stuff that I'm up to. So,
That sounds really
So
fun.
you're a cat. You're
yeah,
saying you're a cat.
yeah, I'm very cat-coded, I feel. Moody, grumpy,
Because that is exactly the thing a cat would do.
yeah,
Exactly.
breaking shit. I don't
Or
shut
that
the
you
hell
catch
up.
them in the act and they slide it back onto the table, and then when you turn away again, they just
They go,
push it off.
Yeah. That
Can
is me.
I say for the record, I was going to say that the loud noise I heard them make earlier, I don't know what it was. I went out there, everything looked fine. It
That's
sounded
not good.
like a huge thing fell over.
Uh-oh.
The only thing that had fallen down was I have this little like stuffed animal pillow thing that Felix likes to sit on, and it's on the window, so it's kind of slippery. So sometimes if they go crazy, he'll like push it off. That's all I saw, and that would not make that noise. So
That'll be a fun
I don't
discovery.
know. I do have the camera. I should just check the camera. I'll check it later.
Yeah, see what happened. Love that. Well, this has been Cat Talk, a little preliminary powwow at the top. Duff, can you clap for me, please? Thank you. Okay. Welcome back. We are talking about The Last of Us Season 2, Episode 5, Feel Her Love, directed by Stephen Williams, written once again by Craig Mazin. Really just sticking with Craig for this season, in a way that I think is pretty obvious with the writing choices here. Danielle, when you are ready, can we please hear the summary for Episode 5?
All right, so Dina and Ellie head to the hospital but are trapped fighting stalkers in yet another abandoned warehouse. Jesse saves them, and we learn he and Tommy have come to Seattle with designs on saving the pair. To escape the WLF, the trio flee through a park. Dina is shot in the leg by an arrow. Ellie causes a distraction so Jesse and Dina can flee back to the cinema. On her way through the forest, Ellie infiltrates the hospital and murders Nora, not before participating in some light violations of the Geneva Conventions.
Assuming they're still around. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. It's just a little bit of torture between friends. Just a little bit, you know? It's fine.
Just a little.
It's fine. So I have written down very little for this episode for a ton of reasons. There's really three big things that I want to touch on. The first and most obvious being Jesse's here. We do have to briefly have another segment of this is different, but this is meaningfully different in a way that we haven't really touched on, which is, Danielle, correct me if my memory is wrong, but the way that this originally plays out is that Tommy goes to Seattle and Ellie and Dina follow Tommy to Seattle.
Yes.
And Tommy's the irresponsible one that's like hell-bent on revenge, and when Dina and Ellie learn this, they go after him in order to save him / probably help with the mission of the revenge, right? It's never really clear which side they land on. But Ellie's whole view is like, well, if we kill all of the people and we kill Abby, then Tommy has no reason to stay in danger. So they kind of are like, if we beat him to it, then that's the best way to keep him safe, type of thing. Here, Tommy and Jesse come after Dina and Ellie, which I think, again, it was something that you had touched on a little bit, Danielle, in our season 1 discussion. They're doing some weird stuff with Tommy. Like, he's just kind of benched for this whole season. And, like, you get that great conversation with him and the therapist, but then it's like, why also have Tommy be here? It's the same thing as when we talked about the changes with Dina and Tommy in Joel's death sequence. It's like, this feels like they should be doing something with it, but they just sort of changes for the sake of changes sometimes, is how I feel.
Yeah, I mean, the show makes Joel's death, like that whole scene is placed next to another huge scene happening that Tommy is part of. And in that way, the show is broadening what happened that day. And I think Tommy, unfortunately, his character is a bit in the middle of all that, and the show like doesn't really know what to do about him, which is unfortunate because I feel like that the game does have a lot of material for him, but he's kind of lost in the shuffle. I don't know.
It is very okay. I will say though, again, we said this last time. Jesse's here, and Jesse's so fun as a character.
Yeah.
He brings a really great presence. He seems to immediately pick up on the vibe between Ellie and Dina. And Ellie's kind of chatting back at him as they're like sort of about to go into the forest, and he's like, "Shut up! Like, do you think I want to talk to you right now?" It's a really fun dynamic that they're building out here between these characters, where Jesse feels like the adult in this room in a very real way, in the same way he did in Jackson, and I actually really like that as a position where it's like, yeah, Dina and Ellie are kind of the brats of Jackson, and he's the the future king kind of thing. And I think that's really fun that it's played out here as well. And he, Ellie's like, we shouldn't have come. Like, we were doing fine without you. And he goes, oh, were you fine up until? Ellie's like, oh, till we weren't, because they are trapped in this quite harrowing, again, building full of stalkers. I think to Darth's point earlier, the implications for this are really bizarre because the military avoid patrolling this warehouse, presumably because it's full of these stalkers, right? But that sort of implies that the stalkers don't leave the building and they've like nested there or something, right? Like there's something and I'm like, is that how the infected work? I thought they just kind of like went around looking for food.
Or you could argue that they are like, that is the area where they're evolving from, because there's something there that lets them keep more control over the brain when they take over a host. But yeah, like I adored seeing the one of them like crouched up on the top of that those crates, and then they're like, oh crap, it's a smart one.
Oh, dude.
And then, we gotta hide, and then cut to like a wide shot, and there's like a whole bunch more and they're all like spidered up in like the most terrifying position to me because spider, and that was good. That got me in all of the best like horror ways.
Yeah.
But then it like the point of it was only action, which I have now, because of stupid David, I have evolved beyond that.
You're welcome.
My action must have meaning, damn it.
Right?
So true.
So good though, because it's like dead quiet as they creep into the warehouse, and like, it's like sit forward on the couch type shit where you're like, oh no, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? What's gonna?
Every time you go into a big dark empty room, it's like not gonna be empty, right?
Right. Exactly.
And it's so tense, and then it just completely breaks bad. They're pinned down. It's going real bad, and Jesse shows up, saves them very handily. By the way, I'm not quite sure. Maybe it's just because he's like logistically somewhere. I don't know enough about like guns and combat and stuff like that in real life to understand what happened, but he saves them is the important thing.
You could make the argument that the larger caliber rifle that he was using would let him one shot easier than the pistols that they had, but a headshot is still a headshot. The whole thing was just Deus Ex Machina on like multiple levels, so him being able to easily wipe all of them out was just as over the top as him showing up at the exact right moment to the exact right building to the exact right part of the building, through the exact right door that Wolf wouldn't see him, all of the things together. And I was like, I hated how that played out.
It's very Jesse coded. Jesse is like human being Deus Ex Machina.
Like, again, could have been fixed by just having a few scenes where he's sort of like following them, but from a distance. Like, he finds the same massacre that they found, or, you can do things with that where it doesn't feel undeserved like that, and it's just like a punch in the face of like, gotcha,
Yeah. And frequently they'll do that with, you think, they don't show who it is, and so you think that it's a villain that has caught on to them and is stalking them, and then you find out, oh no, it was their friend the whole time.
Yeah.
So yeah, they totally could have done that.
That would have been cool. Can I ask before we move on? So we've been talking a lot about the new iteration of Infected being the Stalkers. Again, I've not watched episodes 6 and 7. Are there any other iterations that are introduced in this season?
The spores, which we've touched on.
But like a type of infected.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
From memory, I don't
Just
think
curious.
so. Yeah.
Okay.
I guess this is probably a good place to talk about the spores and the infection and stuff because, and I'm blanking on the character's name, but the woman who
Can we do one more on that room before we leave it? I just was wondering if that they replay all of the beats with "Let me get bitten so I can protect Dina," and it doesn't. Like, why does it do anything to replay all of them a second time with Dina knowing, oh, it's okay for me to let her get a little bit eaten so that I can go and hide, Like, we already saw all this in the subway, so why did they have to play it out the same way? Because it just feels repetitive, although the type of enemy makes it feel a little bit unique. But still, the entire thing, I'm gonna get bit, you go hide, already happened.
Yeah, but it doesn't work this time is the difference, right? Like, I think it's if I was cynical, the way I would read this scene is this is a way to structurally go, this isn't a solution to fighting zombies, right? Like Ellie just getting bitten instead does not solve the problem of the infected, right? She can still be killed by them. They're still going to try and kill Dina. This is like not a tactical solution to engagement with the infected because it fails.
Well, I think she gets bit like 6 times and just like flat out lies to Jesse, so she doesn't have to like explain it. But I mean, you're right. Like, it doesn't solve it, quote unquote, like the first one does. Aside from just it buys time. In the first instance, getting bit buys time so that Dina can shoot the thing in the head. This time, getting bit buys time for Jesse to show up and shoot them in the head. So either way, it fulfills the same need both times of her just sacrificing her body to get bit. But like, how many times are they going to keep playing this over? As season 3, are they going to do this every other episode? Like,
Yeah, it feels repetitive in a way that I'm having a hard time like critiquing, because like stuff like this could happen. It makes sense that they would show us this. But it does feel like, why retread what we already know? But then it's a good scene. Like, it's not a bad scene. So like, I don't know where I really land with it. But I do think it does feel repetitive, and I don't know what the fix is for it.
and a lot of other I was just going to talk about like the let them bite me kind of mentality, because there's a lot of other like zombie things that'll have a character who's armored up, and like they're like, fine, just let them come at me. They can't hurt me. They can't bite through my metal, you know? And it kind of feels like that's how they're playing with her.
Yeah. I'm kind of reminded of, there's a so I've been reading a bunch of like apocalypse fiction behind the scenes as I've been working on like the research for the show, and then also my thesis and stuff like that. And one of the things that comes up in World War Z is the idea of like, actually in a zombie engagement, being heavily armored might be more of an impediment than it would be than you would actually think it would be, right? Because it restricts your movement, it restricts your visibility. If they're moving quickly, you need to be moving quickly. Like there's all these reasons.
Rule number
why
1 is cardio.
Rule number 1 is cardio. And it does that, you know, there's an anecdote where there's a soldier who's talking about like, you know, the military completely fucked up this engagement with the zombies because they put them in armor and they did all these things and it was a complete nightmare. And I'm reminded of the way that World War Z kind of takes a very ecological approach to the zombie apocalypse, where it's thinking about like, what are the infrastructural impacts? What would logistically happen if you were trying to like isolate a horde of zombies? All those types of things. Whereas I think with The Last of Us, is a lot more concerned with the individual and their relationship to the end of the world. And so I also think a part of this moment is maybe demonstrating, and like, I agree that it's a repeat, but I actually don't mind it because I think it demonstrates Ellie has a certain linearity in her thinking. Which we talked a little bit maybe about being naive, or we use different like language to describe it, but she's learned a kind of blunt instrument approach to reality from Joel that is maybe insufficient to achieving this thing that she set out to do. And that's where you get Jesse, who comes in, who has the discipline and has that sort of military aspect, that tactical aspect. So while it feels repetitive, it also to me demonstrates that like, Ellie's kind of been relying on things like this ever since she learned that she was immune, in a way that has let her... It's like, you know, the kid that you knew in high school who was just naturally smart enough, they never had to learn how to study. And then one day, they got to a point in like high school, university, where suddenly that was insufficient. And it's like, how does this smart person not know how to do any of this stuff? And it's like, because they never had to learn. And that to me is what this scene demonstrates for Ellie.
Apologies. I just got a weird thing on Audacity.
That's fine.
So it says, warning, recorded audio was lost at the labeled locations.
Oh, what does that mean?
I don't know.
I love it when you get an error and
It's
you're
a
like,
new one.
I've not seen that before.
Error. There was an error. It's like,
I'm going to just save it now so I don't lose it.
Mm-hmm.
And then just start recording again.
that
I
is giving
apologize.
error. There was an error energy.
Yeah, that's fine. We'll do a resync once you're rolling again.
That was really funny because I thought she was like raising her hand to be like, yes, I was the smart person. I never had to study.
Well,
Yeah,
I was saying that at first. That's why I was going, yes, me. But then that message came up and I'm like, oh my God, what's happening? Am I losing my audio right now?
Incredible.
She was like, I never had to learn this. I was the smart one. I don't know.
It was partially true. Like I got through elementary school, like, and middle school for the most part fine, and then got to high school and was like, I don't know how to study. Even to this day, I struggle with that kind of thing. So it is, not fun.
I was like that in college and I didn't realize it until after I graduated.
Yeah, same. Same.
But to be fair, you were busy studying the blade, so there wasn't a lot of time for other things.
Okay, you know me a little too well. And
because I know for a fact that while you're in college, you were like learning the Darth Maul lightsaber fight by heart and shit. Like, so you know how to study, you just don't know how to study things that matter.
Yeah.
No, but put Jewel of the Fates on and it all comes back like muscle memory.
And you know what?
That it does.
That's not something I can do, so I don't know why I'm making fun of you. I'm just being a bully for no reason. But if I didn't, Patrick would be disappointed. He'd be like, well, did you make fun of him? But yes, that's my kind of generous read of this scene. I just think as a horror scene, the setup is so strong that I kind of didn't have meaningful criticism off the back of it. Having now thought about it, I could do a really constructive and productive reading with this telling us something about how Ellie thinks. And also, the other thing you got to keep in mind is, because the argument then might be, oh, well, like, but surely Dina's the tactician, she would have suggested a better scenario. Ellie's the one that's interacted with these things before. Dina immediately, like, capitulates to Ellie's point of view because she has the experience in this situation. So I think it all logically tracks for me. It is a bit of a double beat, as you might say. So that's okay. I just thought it was really fun.
It tracks with the gun too. Now that you mention it, with before they enter the building and Dina is like, "Do not shoot. You always want to shoot. That's your first, second, and third option all the time, but you cannot shoot." So it's the same thing with, like, her option is, I'm going to let myself get bit, and she doesn't think like beyond that. So yeah, it does track.
This is a really great line where Dina's like, Ellie's like, I don't know how to shoot, and she's like, listen, I love you, but you're kind of crazy, and that's fun sometimes. But I was like, that's cute.
This is a great line.
And then you get the really good moment of Ellie's like, you love me? And Dina gives her this look of like, no shit. And then Ellie's about to be like, me too, and Dina cuts her off. She's like, I know. It's really good. It's so cute.
I think this is in episode 4, but when Dina's, what is it, triangulating or whatever she's doing.
Yeah.
And Ellie's walking away, and Dina like calls her name, and Ellie turns around and just kind of looks at her.
Yeah.
That was really sweet.
They just kind of smile at each other. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's very nice.
That is also where we get the protractor joke, where Dina's like, this is actually really hard. And Ellie's like, yeah, I know, like, you're really smart, you'll figure it out. And Ellie's like, oh, well, don't worry, like Dina goes, did you bring your protractor by any chance? And Ellie's like, yeah, of course I did. And for a second, Dina believes her, and then she's like, oh, for fuck's sake. It's really fun. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good scene.
The vibes are good.
Okay, you were gonna talk about the spores before I brought us back there.
I wanted to, this is a natural segue to the hospital. So we get a scene of, and I can't bring the character's name to mind. It's not Nora, but it's one of the other, like, leaders of the WLF.
Was it Park? I remember that name.
Don't know. Yeah, Elsie Park. Well done, Alex. And she is, one of the leaders in the
I remember
in
the
WLF.
other one's name though.
No. So she's explaining that she sent her team down into the basement. The first basement was completely empty, like void of everything. Like not even rats would go there. So I was like, ooh, that's like a cool little detail. Like it's so infected below there that like even the rats avoid it. And that she sent the team down to eradicate and like, you know, go kill the infected. That's what they were there for. It turns out that's where the spores are, and so they get infected. And the leader of the team was her son Leon, and so he dies down there, which is tragic. You know that we see that later, because of course we do. But the detail that I keyed into that I want to pick up because it's easy to miss and will be important later is when Elsie is explaining what happened, she says to the other military leader, well, don't you know that down there is where patient 0 was for the cordyceps? So, and this is where it gets confusing, because the intelligent zombies are like an evolution of the cordyceps, but the spores are like a primordial version of the infection. Or, because it's patient 0, it's much more advanced and sophisticated because it's been around much longer, right? And the inside of the basement, as Ellie, you know, goes in, is like, it's like super gross and like completely like covered in fungal material. And there's the soldiers are like fused into the wall and they're like breathing out the spores. Like it's quite horrific.
It's giving like the flood from Halo. Like,
yeah.
just everything is sort of munched together in one sort of goopy hive mind type thing.
Pirates of the Caribbean. That was when they're getting like absorbed into the ship.
Yeah.
What?
I was gonna say Control.
Seems to be a recurring theme.
What do you know about Pirates of the Caribbean? What? Oh, like the second film.
The one that you absolutely hate, the second one.
I don't hate this. Maybe I do. Yeah, I think I do. I take that back.
Still some of the best VFX for its time, of all time.
True.
True. Yeah. It's true.
Still holds up.
I told David I saw it 5 times in theaters, and he got up and he walked away from the camera.
Yeah, I had to take a minute.
I mean, I probably saw it close to that as well. So.
It's just not well written in anyway, whatever. It's fine. It's
I mean, I didn't go there to see it for that.
I know.
Like,
It's just anyway, they do such a good job in the third one of like syncing the shot of all these ideas they set up in the first and second one that you watch that second one and you're like, this is the plot that you went with? Anyway, whatever, it's fine. The point is that presumably this is like the epicenter of the infection. That's why the virus is behaving differently. Thus the explanation, Darth, of why these things might be different. This is kind of what the show is pointing to as potentially the reason why this virus has evolved, is that it's just been going on longer in this part of Seattle. I can see the cogs turning.
I don't accept that, but I could see.
I'm not saying it works. I'm just saying that's likely the explanation that they're going for.
Yeah, I think what I instinctively dislike is the idea that you can just write something off as being a way it is because of time. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, I would rather intentionality rather than, oh, this just happened because enough time has passed.
Yeah, it's strange to me because that was a whole thing we talked about with season 1, that they purposely removed that spores being a thing. And if I remember correctly, it was due to the fact that it just didn't seem, I don't want to say unrealistic, but just the direction they went in seemed to make more sense for the TV show.
I think the way that Craig Mazin talked about it was like they tried to conceptualize, but it just like they couldn't get it to. It was really hard to sell on television as like a threat in like you're in a random building or whatever. It doesn't feel likely that the spores would be able to stay in the air. Like they talked about it the way like they just couldn't developmentally find a way for it to work on TV, which is why they sort of went the other direction with the kind of root systems and stuff. Which,
for the record, I will say it. I think that's dumb. But you know, it's television, it's fiction. like, what do you mean you couldn't write it? You can have them have masks and they put them on. Like, I don't know what you're, like, whatever. But they went in that direction. I'm fine with that. But then why backpedal it? Why not just go with what you established? Why bring it now?
Because, and this comes back to something we talked about last episode, because they needed to retain the device of blunting Ellie's responsibility for this kill. Right? This whole season is this massive effort to compromise the violence and to tiptoe it back to retain some of that empathy for these characters. Because when she does torture and kill Nora's already dead at that point. Right? She's inhaled the spore. She's going to die. This is the same bullshit as everything we've seen so far with the violence, where it's like, it can't just be that she does violence. It has to be in some way not entirely her fault, you know, or, well, it's already done. She may as well, you know, there's a, this effort to compromise, I think, is where reintroducing this comes from. Because otherwise, and I'm saying this as someone that's seen the whole season, how do I explain this? So the way that this is mediated in the video game is, this is another moment that we talked about structurally, where they put you in a position and they say you can't proceed unless you press square to torture this woman. And you have to keep pressing square to continue to beat this woman in with a pipe, right? It's the same mechanic as the end of the first game, where you're Joel and you've got that gun and you have to shoot that guy in the head. It's the same concept. Similarly, in the game's narrative, she's infected by the spores before this happens, but it's like she's beating Nora's skull in the game, right? She's like actually beating this woman to death and beats her to death. Here, we get 2 hits with the pipe and then we cut away, right?
It cuts, yeah.
And she's already dead, and Nora has to say that out loud. She's like, "You killed us both," and Ellie is like, "Oh, you think, is it what you think?" And then Nora mouths off a bit, and that's kind of what pushes Ellie to do the violence she does, and demands for Abby's location, and eventually sort of seems to get that through this torture. But yeah, it feels like walking up to the line of doing something really horrific and just making sure it's not too horrific, so that we don't still feel something for Ellie, type of thing. Feels of a piece with the effort this season is making.
There are other directions they could have taken that without having to do the spores, though. So it still feels like they were setting up the spores for a bigger thing. You know, they could have had another zombie down there, and that one just happens to bite Nora. They could have where she gets tortured, gives up the information, and then Ellie just leaves her down there alive. Not necessarily anything wrong with that. I don't think Ellie needed to kill her. She only needed to kill Abby. So
I will say, and maybe this is me being a little unfair, but this is why I struggle with the medium of television, because to me, if you're going to adapt something like this, they started adapting The Last of Us when the 2 games were out. And so to me, it, like, when you're setting up these systems in season 1, why not look ahead to see, like, sort of what's being set up to then be like, oh, yeah.
It's not as if they didn't have the source material like the Lost and the Song of Ice and Fire books. It's like they had all the source material to work with. Like they could have figured that out ahead of time.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, I'm not the one like sitting there writing this stuff, but they, like, it's HBO, like they got a lot of money, like budget and stuff. It just feels like there's some responsibility here that's just slightly frustrating to watch, but I don't, and what ends up happening is that I'm kind of like, but I don't want to be unfair to the show, so I just sort of land at, well, they were adapting the game, you know, and for the most part they adapted it successfully, apart from, you know, I think they are trying to soften Ellie and her
also,
eyes, which I think is fine.
Don't they do that weird double thing where then there's like a flashback at the end of the episode and it's like,
yeah,
like
I hate
just
it.
in case it wasn't obvious, like this person is nice. It's like, what? Yeah, huh? It's weird.
I literally saw that and I was like, wait, that's how you're ending the episode
it was
on
so
this?
strange.
Yeah,
The-
it was just a strange choice.
The unwillingness to force you to sit with what Ellie's
To
just
just
done.
commit to it. Yeah.
Yes.
You have
Yeah.
to trust the audience to tune in next episode. You can't do bullshit like this. This is like stunt shit to me. This is either an executive said this isn't testing well enough. People don't want to keep watching the show. This is what, or it's them not trusting the audience in the first place and going, quick, remind them that she's a kid that was loved and this is all just because of her dad's death and like this is all a tragedy. You know, it's
I think probably the second one
Yeah.
drives me crazy.
is my feel of it.
As much as I totally acknowledge that the game is very dark and I don't think everybody can stomach it. And I don't blame them, honestly. Like, it's a really dark game. It's hard to experience. But where I give them props is that they're going for their vision. And I can at least respect them for that they lean into it. And that's just, I hate that they're sort of easing back a little. Not a lot, but just the tiniest bit.
But I think it's one of those things where it's a bunch of tiny sort of moments of easing back that all add up to quite a big total impact, right? Like,
Yeah.
and this is where I struggle, because the friction of, am I willing to engage with this thing that is not fun at times and can be really punishing at times and is like really dire and bleak and unpleasant, and I'm certainly someone that the first way through experiencing that story, I came away being like, why would anyone write this? The more I've come back to it and experienced it again, I get more things out of it. But I think that there is a tendency to this inability to look the source material in the eye and go, okay, this is what it's doing. These are the tricks it's pulling. What tricks can we pull that will produce some of the similar impacts, right? One of there's a scene in season 1 where Joel is talking to Tommy, and he basically admits that he's been having panic attacks because of Ellie, right? And that is a really good trick the show uses to tell us something about Joel, right? And we get the therapy scene with Joel in this season as well. That is, again, a really good trick the show is pulling that is like doing things and moving these characters in ways that are new and interesting and adaptationally feel, it feels like someone very specifically going, ooh, I know it would be really, really cool, right? And they do it and you're like, yeah, that's sick. And you could, there's a silly, like flimsy, flammy thing to say, but like there's an electricity to some of those moments and scenes and decisions that really feel like someone in the writer's room turned around and went, yo, like this is gonna be all, we should do this. And like scenes like this feel like, oh shit, what if people were upset by this? Quick, remind them that Joel is still in the show. You know, it feels cynical, I guess is what I'm saying. Whether it is or not, that is certainly the way I end up feeling.
So as like a pitch to how to fix it, because like that scene, so it's a flashback to them, if I remember right. This is where they're going to the museum and they get in like the spaceship, and is that the right one?
That's so it's the morning. We flash back to the first morning, which is the morning of her 15th birthday, and then the episode ends, and the next episode is the full.
Yeah,
the full
it's like the
sequence of
bedroom or
flashbacks.
something.
Yeah, it's just her waking up.
Or in the house or something. Yeah, it's not like the full.
Okay,
This is
so
literally the Joel is in the show and Ellie is a nice person kind of energy, not anything more than that.
I think typically how a good show handles those kind of flashbacks is they put them at a point where it's not the opposite. Meaning what they tried to do was they had Ellie do something really violent, so now they're trying to show something really soft. But if they just have Ellie like waking up from a nap and she had this flashback during the nap, then it's okay, because the flashback is not trying to change your opinion about anything. It's
Yeah, or you could lean into it the other way, and the flashback is to her doing something bad in childhood, and Joel reacting to that. Like, there's different ways I think you could reinforce that without, like you said, just doing the total opposite and being all, it's lovey-dovey, she's not bad, trust us.
Yeah. Well,
It's
because
weird.
like all of y'all's reactions was like, "Oh, I can't believe they ended the episode like this." And I'm like, "Well, how would you? If you were flashing back, what would you flash back to?"
I would do the thing where it flashes back, but it's not like a positive memory, it's a bad one. But again, that may be too, I don't know, unfriendly for TV audiences, I don't know.
Something that I don't want to talk too much about today, just because we're probably going to talk about it in the next episode, for episode 6. But something that I was thinking about while watching this episode was like, well, wait a minute. Ever since Joel died, we've not really had him on screen. Actually, I shouldn't say not really. We haven't had him on screen at all. And in the game, they have flashback sections. And when we got to the end of this episode, I was like, are they just going to put it in one episode? That feels bad. So I'm so curious how this is going to play out.
I want to foreground my thoughts for the next episode of TV we're about to watch. I don't think I've ever seen a worse episode of TV than episode 6.
Oh no.
It's
Oh no.
Wow.
really bad. The material's fine.
Yeah.
It's what they do with it, and it's how they choose to instrumentalize it, and it's the way that they... How do I put this? There's a way that you can use Pedro Pascal that doesn't feel cheap and shitty, right? You know, him in like Fantastic Four, he's brilliant in Eddington. Like, you can put him in stuff and like the kind of terse, you know, staring off into the middle distance, handsome guy that you want to trust thing. You can use that really effectively. Fuck me, that next episode. I'm so interested to talk about it with you guys because, yeah, it triggered something in me that I don't understand. Like, truly, it made me angry in a way that I can't. I'm gonna have to try and unpack it, you know, and figure it out because I wanted to like it so badly, and I finished the episode, and I was like, "Wow, like these motherfuckers." So I'm very excited to talk about that. And I get why people stopped watching the show this season. Like, I completely understand the audience's reaction to this season being, "I'm not interested in this show anymore." And I think it's that
Yeah.
this episode might be a clue as to why that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, anyway.
I'm so curious now. I can't wait for this.
It's just and it's not even a game thing. It's like purely just what's in the television program and the way it's written. The one thing I do want to say before we kind of wrap up here is there's 2 episodes this season left. We've spent 2 episodes functionally in Seattle doing this work. We haven't spent a lot of screen time in Seattle, and so to have an entire episode of flashbacks, that's a lot of screen time that we're not spending before the climax of this season. So as much as this has been a really pacey season so far, it also feels like it's way too short because it's like, oh, so we're doing an episode of non-plot related stuff, and then we're coming back in to wrap things up? Crazy.
Well, it's funny too because something else I thought about was like, okay, so this is day 2 of Seattle and we have 2 episodes left. So how are they going to do this? Are they going to have day 3 split into 2 days? Because that feels like you're really stretching things and, you know, but okay. And then, you know, having the realization that they were going to have a whole episode of flashbacks. I was like, oh, that's why. Okay.
It's wild. I don't understand what happened to the production of this season. Yeah, I'm so curious to see what you guys think because I want to try and not be like, look, I'm completely willing to be unfair to anything, right? That is like, I have no qualms about being unfair to a TV program and the people that wrote it, right? That's my job. Part of my job is to be the guy that says the extreme thing, that provokes the reaction, that produces the conversation, right? But this is up there with like the gas leak year of Community where, you watch the episodes and you go, this looks like an episode of Community, and it has all the actors in it, but it's not right. That to me is how this episode feels, where I'm like, he looks like Joel and she looks like Ellie, but what are we doing?
They literally say the gas leak year doesn't count, though.
I know. Well, yeah, I know.
Like, they admit it in the show.
Well, I know. There's paratextual reasons why that happened, because Dan Harmon was fired correctly from the show, and then they had to bring in new writers, and then they brought it back for season 5, which is why it starts with repilot. But the key takeaway here is talking about episode 6 and 7 next. Do you guys have any closing thoughts on these episodes before we wrap up?
I feel like while I am enjoying the show, something I tend to do a lot, and David, I know you and I have talked about this because you've critiqued my writing, and it's just a trap I fall into a lot of just, and now I'm blanking on the word, not committing to what I'm saying or what I'm posing. And I feel like this show, I am falling into that position again where I feel like I don't want to be that person who's like annoyed at the show because a lot of people have been praising it, but at the same time, like, I'm enjoying it, but I don't think it's overall, I don't think the season is good. It's fine. I think it's serviceable. I'm curious to see how episode 6 and 7, what they do for me.
It's Craig Mazin adapting The Last of Us. The fact that it ends up being serviceable is crazy to me. Like, he's like one of the best living
Chernobyl's
screenwriters.
Really good. Yeah,
it doesn't make sense.
It's just like it's like it's afraid of like being mistaken for its own story. Like,
oh my God,
that's a good
every
way to
time
put it.
it's like,
yeah, that's 100% it. Yeah.
like it just almost quite doesn't want to be the thing that it should be remembered for.
Yeah.
Now that you said that out loud, I'm not going to be able to unhear that. It's doing like a Delentalism or something like that. Like this, it's like dabbling in being the story that it is, but it's not. It's like casually doing it. Like it's like, we're not seriously being the story. We're just thinking about maybe being the story. We don't want you to think that we're the story, but we're gonna be parts of this. But we don't. It's complicated, and you kind of walk away being like, why didn't you just do it? Like, you've got all the bits here.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah.
Or
Anyway.
even just truly adapt it to television, because the way, again, still haven't watched episode 6 and 7, so I don't know for sure what happens, but it's just crazy how like the game is structured in a specific way, and I don't think how they adapted it works as well for TV as they think it does.
It's literally episodic already.
Yeah.
Like, it's split into days.
I don't know. And I feel like, just again, that's a committing thing. Like, just the game is structured in a specific way, and that's fine because it's the game and that's the medium and it works for the medium. It desperately, like, just having that gap between season 2 and 3, I feel is so damaging. And like right now we're in a weird space because once season 3 comes out, and then the show's readily available and people can just continue from season 2 to 3. But like, I feel like there is an issue here about where it, from my understanding, where it's going to leave us at the end of this season and how that like disrupts the flow of the story.
Can I tell you a real like actual like thought that made me have like actual anxiety is,
Okay.
what if they do a 4th season based on the epilogue?
Oh. Oh my.
And I had that thought, and I like legitimately was like my blood pressure spiked. I was like, because if I'm Craig Mazin, I'm looking at that epilogue, and that's a fat juicy T-bone steak to a writer like Craig Mazin.
They could pad that a lot.
Yeah,
They could. I mean, I wouldn't be happy about it, I don't think, but they could do it.
yeah. I just had to say that into the universe because I've been living with that thought, And so now you, Danielle, and the listener are also cursed to have to live with this cursed knowledge. Anyway, we
Have you heard them talk about any differences between making season 1 and season 2? Because I would think that a lot of the corporate people would not have thought that season 1 would blow up as much as it did. So I would think that with season 2, they might have had more eyes watching and had more cooks in the kitchen, so to speak. And I wonder if that maybe contributed to some of these things that we're discussing, because I keep thinking like season 2 does feel like it was trying, which maybe that's just the way the story plays out, but like all of these punches with Joel dying and then the torture scene, like all of this stuff just feels like something you would put into a story if you're like, oh, we need something to get the audience interested. It feels too intentional. And I'm just trying to wrap my brain around why that might be the case.
I think part of the difference creatively is that, so I can tell you just like logistically, one of the biggest changes is, much like the game, Neil Druckmann, whilst he wrote all of the structural stuff, he didn't want to be the one writing the Dina and Ellie relationship. It made him uncomfortable. So Haley Gross stepped in to write that and was largely involved with season 2 as well, working with Craig Mazin. And so Druckmann's involvement is a lot less than it was in season 1, where he's basically entirely, behind the wheel. And what's really interesting is in the game, Druckmann writes most of the second half of that game, and those relationships, obviously very similar to the first game, if you know what I'm talking about. But then he's not involved at all in the third season. So I'm really curious to see what that ends up meaning, because it's like, okay, the original creator isn't really super involved in the actual screenwriting for season 2. Haley Gross is involved, and then Druckmann's not involved at all in the next season, despite that being largely the material that he wrote. So I think that the other thing that I'm picking up on, I don't want to be the conspiracy guy, but I get the impression that there might have been some creative differences between Druckmann and Mazin this season in a way that there wasn't in season 1. Season 1's very much, with the exception of the Bill episode, very much a direct adaptation, because that game is structured like a film, so it makes sense for it to be the type of TV show it is. This season, to me, it feels like that lack of involvement from Druckmann maybe signals a change in priority for HBO in how they're staffing this show, and what they're looking for long term. I don't think that they expected it to be as big as it was, but I think they knew they had a hit on their hands, because the game is like a seminal, it's like a canonical text in games criticism. And so I think they kind of knew that like the story's big enough that it's going to have a critical mass, and whether they expected it to escape containment or not, I would be surprised if we don't learn later that there was some drama there with Druckmann and Mazin, or Druckmann and Gross, and some spat behind the scenes about some of these decisions, because I could imagine Druckmann being the type of writer that would balk at the idea of episode 6 being entirely flashback. I think he would find that really frustrating. It's my intuition. That's
also interesting, because didn't he write it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I know it's speculation, but I'm kind of leaning into that as well. I feel like there were creative differences. I feel like Druckmann, he cares about this project a lot, or The Last of Us a lot, and it feels odd that, I mean, I know he is working on another game, and so there's a reason for him to step away, but I feel like there's more going on, and that's fine. But I am concerned about where the show will go.
We know from Druckmann's professional career that like he's not exactly a guy that is easy to work with, and he makes a lot of tactical decisions behind the scenes that he then passes off as like, well, it just happened that way. And it's like, no, like you tried to get that person fired, or like his history is very we've got a full episode where me and Danielle kind of talk through how he came to be the president of Naughty Dog, and like it's a story with a lot of holes in it, and he's a guy that prints the myth, not the reality, right?
Yeah, I should also add that if I know Alex and Darth haven't, played the second game or the first game, I guess, either, but if you're curious, they have documentaries on both of the games. The second documentary, it's interesting when you bring up Neil Druckmann himself, because like that documentary just felt manipulative as hell for the most part. I got to the end of that and I was like, what the hell did I just watch? Like, just talking about Naughty Dog and like, I guess I won't go too deep into it, but just Druckmann himself, like there is holes. It's just, he doesn't seem like the easiest person to work for, and he'll often like say, we needed to do this thing, but the trailer needed to come out now. And I'm like, it actually didn't. Like, you guys like could have waited. You just were pressuring your employees to work more hours. But,
Yeah, there's that pretty dire Jason Schreier article that came out like just after part 2, and it was like the working conditions at Naughty Dog during the final days of crunch sound literally like they endangered people. Like, there's at one point where he's like, Schreier's in like the office at like 1 a.m. or something, and like a pipe in the building bursts and like a bunch of bricks and stuff fall into like the workspace.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, what?
I forgot.
And anyway, that's a whole other conversation.
Something.
Yeah, we got to wrap up because me and Alex got to go. But quick pluggables. Danielle, where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me on Blue Sky at Level Story, and that's where I post all of my projects. I also just started working on a new project, a little blog called Prismatic Ponderings. So, prismaticponderings.wordpress.com.
Hell yeah.
Head on over. It's nothing crazy. It's just me sharing my opinions on things, not being super critical necessarily, just talking about stuff.
I can tell you from experience that the Zero Indent listener loves a blog. We're like a blog coded company. We love an article and we love a blog, so go check it out. Darth, I was going to say what of you are coming up, but I need to proof that thing you sent me yesterday. So that's on my to-do list. But where can people find you on the internet? If they don't already know somehow from this show.
YouTube, DARTH''D. And I'm really crossing my fingers that I will have the rough cut done by this weekend. I can like see the end of the timeline now, like in the edit. Like I could see the finish line. So I'm just slowly working my way there. And also, as a side note, Prismatic is one of the current sets of Pokemon cards being printed. So
let's go.
There you go.
Brand
I love that.
synergy.
I love that word.
Right back.
Yeah.
It is a good word, isn't it?
Yeah, it's good. I was going to ask you, Alex, if you've got anything to plug. Nothing you want to point people to? No. No. Go outside. Hey, here's my plug. Go outside. Go for a walk. It's nice. Get out of the. Put your phone down. Go outside. Listen, if you made it this far, you already know what it is. ZeroIndent.com for everything we do. Patreon.com/ZeroIndent to support us. If you support us at the $5 tier, you get access to what is now 12 years of archived Patreon content, plus the Zero Indent Patreon bonus show. We got a few cool ideas coming up that I got to share with Darth and Pat behind the scenes. I also have another project that should be coming out soon. I don't want to say too much, but I've been working on a project that's sort of about media criticism directly in a way that this show's format doesn't really facilitate. I'm not sure when it'll be out, but it's close to being finished as an idea. You can find all of our merch at underink.press, and if you join our Patreon for free, if you just make an account and subscribe, you gain access to the Zero Indent Review chat, where you can send us questions, feedback, or episode ideas directly. It's completely free. All you have to do is follow us on Patreon. It helps more people find us, and it's a great place to have some conversations with some like-minded people who like thinking about media, in a critical and deep way, and they don't yell at each other for having different opinions. So go check it out. It's a really fun place to hang out. What?
They only yell at you when you don't know enough about The Last of Us.
Yeah, people got really mad about that, and I was like, who cares? very confused. Also, again, after like
Truly.
2 hours of us like really carefully talking about all these different, like, you can't get to the point in the episode where I forget the timeline without having experienced like 2 hours of like deep in-depth media criticism. To then get really mad about that is so weird to me. It's like, well, what were you here for?
Right.
Yeah.
Like, anyway, that'll do
You
it for
get
today.
the facts right, David.
Yeah, I need a fact checker. To be fair, that's what Patrick used to do on Art for Artists, and it was quite helpful. Anyway, we're gonna wrap it up. As always, it's I was about to fuck it up, though. I'm sorry. I looked at you too early because I was like, I always enjoy how much you enjoy this, and then I forgot what I was gonna say. It's as always, it's just the end of the show. It's not the end of the world. Zero Indent is an independent publication dedicated to studying works of genre fiction, brought to you by our subscribers. Head to patreon.com/zeroindent to learn more and consider supporting us. Our theme song is The Swan by Alon Peretz. Our podcast cover art is by Crystal Hatay. Everything else is written, directed, and edited by me, DC McNeil. You can find our merch and books at underink.press and everything we do at zeroindent.com. I'm gonna have to click on this. I'm sorry, gang. Give me a sec. What does Girl Child Day? Every
Yeah,
girl
I
ever
must know.
does
Like, what?
opportunity. The girl I am, the change I lead. The International Day of the Girl. What?
Like his brain is malfunctioning in real time.
Yeah.
What? Because the
The
Way to
girl
melt his
child,
brain
David.
before we start.
Not the girl mother, the girl child.
it just. But
It's not that hard.
girl already described it. That describes a female child. Like it.
What are you talking about?
It's like calling, like, it's like saying, oh, it's a wheeled car. It's like, no, car already contained that information. You didn't need to say that.
No, people need it.
This is crazy.
Oh, you think it's like a tautology thing? It's like,
Yeah.
obviously, a girl is a child,
But I'm stumbling because it seems really deliberate.
but not all children are girls, you know.
No, I know, but by definition, all girls are children.
True.
Anyway.
That is true. Like, girl is.
Yeah. You see what I'm
Yeah, I
saying?
see what you're saying. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I
mean, it is.
yeah.
It's odd.
This is how I finally lose my mind. This is all it took. I'm still a little bit hot. Let me.
Is he going
1,
to take
2,
off his shirt?
1, 2. I meant on the microphone. Okay, and you knew that. And how dare you? Wow, we are so punchy today. This is gonna be such a good episode. All right. In 3, 2.